17-year-old Tomas Plancarte Benson and his mother, Kathleen, are suing 17-year-old Daniel Tinjim and his parents, Paula and Mark Naylor. Tomas claims Daniel scammed him out of $200.
Yeah, this is case number 110 on the calendar in the matter of Benson versus Naylor. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Benson, this is your son, Mr. and Mrs. Naylor, your son, and it is your claim, Ms. Benson, that the defendant's son defrauded your son out of a couple of $100.
That's correct.
By some sort of scam with your son's ATM card. Mr. and Mrs. Naylor say that this was not a scam by their son, but sort of a thing that both boys did because they wanted some money, and your son is just not prepared to fess up that he was complicit in this little scam. So he's blamed their son.
Okay.
So why don't the parents sit down for a second, because they weren't there, they don't know what happened. The only two people that know what happened are these two people who were standing in front of me. Your first name is what?
Tomas.
And yours?
Daniel.
Daniel, how long have you and Tomas been friends?
For a couple of years now.
So why don't you tell me, Tomas, your version of what happened and when it happened?
All right. This situation all started on January 23rd of this year when I had lent Mr. Tinjin $40 from my own bank account.
Where were you when he asked you for the money?
I was at home.
And where was the money?
It was in my bank account.
And where was he?
At his house, I presume, yeah.
Well, how did he contact you, sir?
Yeah, he called me. He had called me from his house.
And said what?
It said he needed $20. The first time. There's two transactions here. One earlier in the evening and then one later. And
Look at me, sir.
I'm trying to collect myself. I'm very nervous.
He called you once and said, I need $20, not 40.
It's 40. He asked me for 40 altogether. The first time he said he needed money for...
Mr. Benson, you're tripping all over yourself, sir. Look at me. You're tripping all over yourself, Tomas.
I'm very sorry. I'm very nervous.
Get unnervous, Mr. Benson.
It's very hard. Sorry.
He called you in your house on
Yes.
January 23rd and said, I need...
$20 first.
Okay. And you said...
Okay. I didn't ask him what he needed it for.
I
That's
didn't
not
ask
into
you.
my
And then
business.
what did you do? Did you say, I'll meet you at my bank? Come over,
Yeah. I said I'd meet him halfway there. Like, there's a street that we meet at, and then we head to my bank.
So you went to your bank on January 23rd and took out $20.
Yeah, just $20 first.
And you gave it to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then he called me later that evening and
Just a minute. Then he went home and you went home?
Yeah. And we went home.
Go ahead.
And then he called me later that evening saying he needed another $20. And so I said, all right, but that's kind of a lot of money that I'm lending to you. Could you pay me interest on it or something? And he agreed $10 interest, which would make it $50. And that was our agreement. And the way he was going to pay me back was getting a check from his grandma with an amount of $250 later that week. He was supposed to be getting this check. So then we agreed that I would cash this check through my bank. Then afterwards, I waited till for...
Look at me. Don't look there.
I'm sorry. So then I was going to wait for a call from him. And then I finally got the call on February 2nd, Wednesday. And he said that he finally got his check from his grandma. And we'd met up, and we headed to my bank. And I looked at the check, and it was in the amount of $250. I signed my name to pay to the order of Tomas Benson. I have all this right here. I have all this evidence.
I didn't ask you for anything. I asked you to tell me the story.
All right. We headed to my bank. I had looked at the check, seen that it was in the right amount.
You told me about that already.
Yeah. And then I put it in the envelope, put it on the ledge, grabbed my wallet to get my bank card out to the bank, put it in the machine, typed in the amount, $250 deposit, and sometime between that time, I believe that he had switched the envelope. He took an envelope with the check in it, and
Don't tell me what you believe, sir. I'm not interested what you believe.
All right.
I'm not interested what you believe.
But, yeah, I put it on the ledge. I typed in that I would deposit it.
You told me that already.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you.
Don't tell me again. I have a very good memory.
Then I put the envelope into the bank, and then I withdrew $200 from my own account, and I gave it to him then because I thought the $50 was supposed to be mine, and then I'd give him $200 out of my own bank to make it even. And then afterwards, we just parted ways.
Subsequently, you advised that they had no envelope, they had no check, they had no nothing, and your bank account became overdrawn. Is that right?
No, I had money in my account.
Okay, but you were advised then that the account never was credited with $250 in that check. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you thought that was a big scam. Mr. Benson, after you gave him the $200 in cash, where did you go?
Back to my house.
Where did he go?
I'm not very sure.
Okay, go. Let's start with January 23rd with the two $20 bills.
That's not true. He never loaned me $20 two times. That's not true at all.
I
Okay.
have statements here.
You don't have a bank statement showing that you lent him $20 twice? You have a
Oh,
bank
but I
statement
have
that they withdrew $20?
two withdrawals for the amount of $20.
So what? He says you never lent him any money.
Well,
That's
I can
what he
show you
says.
my bank statements here. They show there's 2 transactions on that day.
I believe that there are 2 transactions on that day, sir.
Could I
But
show
you have no proof. I believe that there were 2 transactions on January 23rd. There is absolutely nothing to suggest that those 2 transactions had anything to do with him, other than your testimony. Is that right? Is that right?
I guess, yes.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay, on January 27th, when he did pull up the $200, we both split the $200 with that. I was supposed to, in interest, I was supposed to give him $50 later for it.
Just a second. You're getting ahead of yourself, Daniel. On the 27th, what happened?
Okay, me and Thomas met up. We had an idea. We were going to go deposit a slip with no check in it. We both knew what
Just
we
a
were
second.
doing.
On the 27th, you were going to deposit a slip,
Yes,
just a deposit slip.
yes.
Whose idea was this?
It was both of ours.
So you were going to put in just a deposit slip with no check.
Yes.
Draw out $200, but you would owe him $150. $50 of that was interest.
Yes, which I would have to pay later.
What made you and the defendant get together with this little scheme?
Because we wanted money to go out and party that night.
What night?
That night that we did it, I'm not quite sure what day it was, February 2nd, I guess.
Did you go out afterwards?
Yes. we
The
did.
2 of you?
Yes.
Where did you go?
Just to people's houses and stuff
Well, what'd you need money for?
to buy stuff.
Drugs?
Go out and party. No, not drugs.
What?
Alcohol.
Did you go to mutual friends' houses? Look at me. Did you go to mutual friends' houses?
Yes and no.
What do you mean yes and no?
Well, I didn't know some of the people. We went over to somebody else's house I didn't know. We went over to one of my buddies' house that we both knew.
What's his name?
Josh.
Your Honor, I was barred from the premises of Cherry Park Apartments, so I could not go over to Joshua's
Why
house.
were you barred from there?
Because of an incident with my brother.
No. He got kicked out because they found out that he was dealing
Dealing what?
drugs.
No, I had actually been barred because I had a fight with my older brother, who also lived in the apartments.
Tomas, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true.
What is it that doesn't make sense?
Your slick story.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I shouldn't be blamed for everything. We did it 50-50. I'm admitting that we both did it and it was wrong, but I don't want to be the only one to blame.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Tomas Plancarte Benson says former friend Daniel Tinjum cheated him out of $200. Daniel claims he and Tomas were partners in a bank scam.
Now, Daniel, at first when this scam was discovered, what did you tell your parents?
I didn't tell them anything about it at first. I just thought that the less they knew, the better, I guess, at the time. I know I did something wrong. I didn't really want to fess up to it at the time, but now I think it's the right time. I shouldn't be blamed for everything. We did it 50-50. I'm admitting that we both did it and it was wrong, but I don't want to be the only one to blame.
Okay.
And another thing here.
Is that a police report?
Oh, yes, it is.
Can I see it, please?
And here's the case suit, which here I'll show you both of them.
Miss Benson, is your son on probation?
No, he's not.
Had he been?
No.
You hesitated there for a moment.
He is going to LifeWorks program that he's going because he had a drug and alcohol problem.
When did he start it?
Uh,
You can stand up now.
he started, I think, in January of this year, I believe it was.
Miss Benson, when did you find out about this money?
Right after the incident happened.
Well, tell me about how you found out about it.
I had found out because Thomas had gotten a letter in the mail saying that there wasn't a check in the envelope. And so he had come to me and told me he was very furious. And then he had made contact with the bank to find out what happened. He wanted an investigation.
So the first you found out about it was when your son came to you
Yes.
and showed you what?
Showed me the letter he'd gotten from the bank.
Which is right here.
Yeah, I believe that there was nothing in the envelope.
And I would have no reason to put a fake deposit slip in there because I had money in the bank already. If I really wanted to party, I could just pull money out of my bank and it'd be no problem.
Who handles this account for him?
He does.
I know.
How old was he when you let him start to take care of this money?
He started working when he was about 15, and he's really good with his money, very tight-fisted, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, he's not so tight-fisted if he was using some of his money for illegal things.
That is true.
Yeah, that's part of
However, I mean, when this incident happened, there would be no reason for him to put a fake deposit slip in there. If he already had money in there, all he had to do was just go out and pull it out.
That's true.
And they cut
That's the only thing that I find troubling. Stand up. The only thing that I find troubling, quite frankly, is if this was his mother's bank account or one that was a joint bank account, and they had, in fact, defrauded his mother of the money,
Right.
I could understand he would stick to his story. But this was his money. If he was going to take money out of that account to split to go partying, he can do that.
Yeah, we're not denying the whole story. I'm saying the whole thing sounds fishy to me.
Well, it does sound fishy to me, but the question that I have to ask myself, why would Mr. Benson get this letter from the bank on February 2nd that says there was no check in this deposit envelope and take it to show his mother?
I have no idea.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me
Because
either.
if what he wanted to do was take out $200 and go partying with his friend, he would have done that. So why would he do this?
I have
Can
no
you
idea.
think of a reason?
Well, we weren't exactly both sober at the time either. We were the influence of alcohol, too.
You were.
Yes.
If you were under the influence of alcohol, why would he make up this story about a check and an envelope? Where had you been drinking?
Or we just walking around and stuff around town.
We hadn't been drinking. I wasn't drinking at all.
Well, first, when this whole thing started, they did come over to our house, and I was in the other room, and my husband was asking Thomas about this check, and he said that there was a check. My husband asked, okay, what was the color of it? Do you remember whose name was on it? What is the extra $50 for? And he said he was charging him $50 for cashing a check. And my husband asked him, why would you charge somebody $50 for cashing a check? I'm not, if these boys both did something, I didn't have a problem of paying the money back. I just wanted to come down to the bottom of the truth. And that's why I feel like we're here today.
Well, as I said to you, my problem is, why would he go to his mother
Exactly.
if he was complicit in this incident?
I have no idea.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
And if it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. Listen, the bank says there was no check enclosed. As a result, we've debited your account. Due to the nature of this transaction, we have disabled your ATM card to ensure that nobody is going to use it, but you can get another ATM card.
Actually, they would not reissue me a card.
They cut it up right there.
Yeah.
And they won't give you another one?
No.
They were very sorry they had to do it because
And I was
he had built
very
a report
embarrassed
with
and
them.
humiliated because I would never defraud my bank. I knew everybody there very well, and I was very responsible with my money. I budgeted very well.
Well, that's not true. You bought some drugs with your money.
Every now and then.
What?
Every now and then, but...
Right. So that's not 100% accurate, right?
Well, compared to other people my age, I believe. Because a lot of people my age don't have bank accounts, don't have as much money as I did.
Miss Benson, he's very slick. He really is. He's very slick. I'm not sure, and I'm not convinced.
Well, I don't think he would have gone through all this trouble. I mean,
Unless
making
he
the
just
police
gave me-
report.
He just gave me a reason. When did they cut up your bank card?
A few days after I received that letter, though.
Few days. Just listen to me carefully. When did you make a police report?
It was April 3rd or 4th.
After they cut up your bank card.
Yeah.
April
It was
13th.
after they cut up my bank card.
Oh, that's a reason. That's a reason.
We tried to contact them. We were told by the officer that took the report to contact the family that it was a civil matter, and our phone number was blocked.
I don't care. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about whether your son was aware of the fact that there was nothing in this deposit slip that the two boys brought to the bank in order
I
to...
did not know that. I thought...
Listen! That's my job to figure out. He gave me a perfectly cogent story. You did not give me a perfectly cogent story. I'm still not comfortable that you were actually part of it. But I'm not comfortable enough, quite frankly, Mr. Benson, with your story of $20 here and $20 there and another $10 in interest, making it $50. I don't know what it was about. Maybe it was drug money. Maybe he was selling you something. Who knows? I'm not comfortable with your whole story. I'm also not comfortable with saying to you that you were part of this scheme. That's not what I have to determine today. What I have to determine today is whether or not they're going to pay you either all or half of what came out of your bank. And since what you're asking me for is to make a determination that the Nailers owe you $250, I'm not prepared to do that because I'm not totally comfortable with your story.
Ma'am,
What?
it's 200, not 250.
Thank you for correcting me, sir. What difference does it make?
That's correct. What difference does it make?
Right.
My son had also asked.
There's no further issue. I'm not prepared to rule that you are entitled to $200 from the defendant because I'm not totally comfortable with your story, Tomas.
All right. Can I show you some emails that I'd sent him beginning March 27th?
No, show me
22nd?
emails that he sent to you.
Well,
They're
yeah.
answering them right
Yeah.
here.
Does he acknowledge that he owes you the
Yes.
money?
Yes.
Let me take a look at it.
It's began March.
Hand them all.
This was on the.
Shh. See these emails?
No.
I have more right here.
Yeah, I
too.
also have more right here.
Continuation
see
of all
them.
that.
Mr. Naylor, what's that all about, sir?
These aren't even from me.
Yeah, they are from you. What do you think
No,
about that, sir?
They're not. Seriously, they're not from me.
Who's Rob's dad?
Robert was his next door neighbor.
And what kind of work does he do for Rob's dad?
Who? I'm sorry,
Your
who?
son.
He does. They can do yard work for him.
And has he done that in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it says there. I'm doing work for Rob's dad.
Yeah, but I didn't write most of this.
Couldn't have made it up.
Shh. Got it? Look at me, Mr. and Mrs. Naylor. Now you got it?
Yeah, I understand. I just don't understand about the check. This is what the whole weird thing is.
Listen, I don't understand about the checks either. I don't. And I'm not certain whether Tomas is talking about $100 or $200, because nowhere in there does it say how much you think he owes you, because according to him, he acknowledges he owes you $100, right?
Yes.
But not $200.
No. I asked for another check, actually.
Well, why would you ask for another check? If he didn't have a good check the first time, why would he give you a good check the second time from his grandmother?
I know.
Interesting. And you did write that, Daniel.
Not all of it, though.
Daniel!
Danny, just tell the truth. If you did it wrong.
I'm not all of it, though. I'm telling them, but yeah.
So you acknowledged you owed him some money,
Yes.
Yes.
and you acknowledged that you had a job and that you were going to get him some money.
Yes.
The question is 100 or 200. Is that it?
It's 100.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
That is our excuse. You may step out.
20-year-old Joshua Tenney is suing his ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old Michelle Newen, for opening a PayPal account with his debit card. Michelle claims it was Joshua who opened the account.
Now, it's case number 39 on the calendar in the matter of Tenney versus Wynn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Tenney, this used to be your girlfriend. She's not your girlfriend any longer. It is your claim that while you were away for Thanksgiving holiday last year, the defendant used a credit card of yours to open up a PayPal account on the internet. And she charged many items and used your account to purchase many things for herself. So I'm not exactly sure how this PayPal thing works.
Okay.
So you're going to explain it to me.
All right, what you need to open a PayPal account, it's with association with eBay. All you need is an email address, a credit card, debit card, also an address followed with the name.
An address.
Yes.
Were you two living together?
Yes.
And you had a debit card?
Mm-hmm.
Was that a joint debit card or just in your name?
Just in my name.
How many cards did you have?
One.
Do you just need the number of the card?
Yeah, you just need the number.
Keep going.
She registered under her email address, which is Michelle Loves Josh. I have that right here as well, along with purchases.
Can I see, please, the account being opened with her email address?
And I also have PayPal statements along with my bank statements.
Why would he open the account, Miss Nguyen, with your email address?
He opened it for me, and we just used my email address.
That's not true.
He opened it for you so that you could buy things on eBay?
Yes.
And you were supposed to pay for those things. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I never received.
Just a minute. Well, how much money did you charge on his account?
It was around $2,000.
$2,000. Over what period of time?
I think about 2 weeks.
Was that when he was away?
No, he actually spent Thanksgiving with me, and he was there the whole time. So you were at my mom's house on Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So.
Look at me. Look at me. $2,000 in 2 weeks. What kind of work do you do, Miss Nguyen?
I work at an insurance office.
Doing what?
I'm an insurance agent.
How long have you been with the same company?
About a year.
You work on salary or commission?
Both.
What's your salary?
$10 an hour.
How many hours a week do you work?
Right now, 40.
File tax returns?
Yes.
How much did you earn last year?
I'm not sure.
Well, think very hard. Wasn't so long ago.
Is about 37,000.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I've been to her insurance where she used to work. It's runs by her aunt, and she no longer works there.
I still work there.
And
Shh, don't answer him.
she's never received a paycheck. It's all under the table.
Just a minute. She says she filed tax returns that showed that she earned $37,000.
I don't see
this
those.
year.
He was coming to my work to, like, I don't know what
Mr.
he was
Nguyen,
coming there for, but
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you filed tax returns several months ago, which indicated that you earned $37,000 in 2005. I want an answer to that question, and I may make you prove it. Do you understand?
Yes.
Did you file tax returns in April?
Yes, I did.
And how much did you claim that you earned?
Around 37,000.
What's around?
It was probably 36.5 something.
So you have a bank account,
Yes, I do.
and you get paid in check or cash.
Check.
So you put the check in your checking account?
Yes.
And it is your testimony that around last Thanksgiving, when you made these approximately $2,000 worth of purchases, you paid the plaintiff back for those purchases?
No, I was planning to. And then he tried to tell PayPal it was fraudulent, that he had nothing to do with it, and he didn't know about it, even though he did, so that he wouldn't have to pay the money.
I'm asking you, why didn't you pay him?
I was going to pay him, and I told him that I would help him with his bank account and pay him the money.
Miss Nguyen, you bought merchandise. Was it delivered to you?
Yes.
Why didn't you pay him?
I was planning to.
But you didn't. But now he's suing you for money.
Yeah. I told
Listen
him,
to me carefully. Now he's suing you for money, so why didn't you pay him?
I told him I'd give the stuff back, and he...
She never said
Just
that.
a second. You're not giving the stuff back. Why didn't you pay him? You earned $37,000 according to you last year. Why didn't you pay him?
He was going to do that fraudulent claim.
I didn't ask him what he was going to do. I asked you, why didn't you pay for the stuff that you bought?
I told him that I would,
So,
but
is there something you don't understand
I
about
didn't
me?
have the money at the time. But I
Why
told
not?
him-
You earned $37,000.
I don't know. I have rent.
I don't
and-
think that that's funny.
I have rent and bills to pay and stuff.
Then why did you spend $2,000 on merchandise?
It wasn't all for me.
Yes, it was all for you. You said you bought $2,000 worth of stuff. Don't go back on it now.
He actually took some of the merchandise and sold it.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Yes, it is.
Tell me what you bought.
Just clothes and a camera and a cell phone.
What kind of camera did you buy?
It was a...
I have it all in here. It's along with other items that she bought. And the account was actually overdrafted close to $3,000. And I have all the PayPal statements along with the bank
So it was
statements.
$3,000. Is that correct?
It was like 29.
Well, show me exactly, please. Give me the figure. It's all women's clothing, Nikon camera, cell phone.
The camera, she gave it to her mother as a gift.
Here's some piece of work. Here's some piece of work.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And then he grabbed me by my hair and pushed my head like into the grass. And then my roommate came out after that and stopped him, and he pulled a knife out on my roommate.
And later today,
He grabbed his friend that he was wrestling and slammed him into my vehicle, struck his friend right in the nose, was bleeding all over the place.
You don't drink well, sir.
Joshua Tenney claims ex-girlfriend Michelle Nguyen opened a PayPal account with his debit card. Michelle is countersuing, claiming Joshua assaulted her.
Now, you don't have a legitimate excuse for why you didn't pay him the money.
Well, he wasn't expecting me to pay him when we were dating.
You owe him $27.10. You got it? Now let's deal briefly with your counterclaim, because I'm not sure whether I'm going to believe anything that you tell me. You claim that he assaulted you once. Let's hear about it.
I was getting ready to go to work, and he came to my door, and then...
You mean this is after he found out about these charges?
Yeah.
Go ahead. So he came to your door and?
And he went into my house, and he said he wanted to talk to me. He was acting really nice, so I just let him talk to me. We went in the backyard, and then he started pushing me around a little bit.
What was he saying to you?
He was asking me if I was dating somebody else.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with the bank account thing.
Yes.
And then he started pushing me around. He pushed me into the fence in my backyard, and he wouldn't let me get back into the house to go to work. And then finally he let me out of the backyard, and then he followed me outside to the front of the house, and then he grabbed me by my hair and pushed my head like into the grass. And then my roommate came out after that and stopped him, and he pulled a knife out on my roommate, and then that was pretty much it after that. And then I was going to work, but he was following me.
Did you go to work?
No, I couldn't, because he was following me.
So where did you go?
We went to the police station. I didn't want him following me to work because...
And you went to the police station, you filed a report?
Yes.
Can I see a copy of the report?
They wouldn't release the report to me, but they did give me this. It just has the police report number and the date that it happened.
When did you go back to work?
About 5 days later, 6 days later.
Well, what'd you do for 5 days?
I just stayed at home, but my boss told me not to come in because...
Don't tell me what your boss told you. Why did you stay home? He knows where you live.
Yeah, but I felt safer at my house.
Why did you feel safer at your house rather than at work where there were other people?
Oh, well, it's just me in the office, that's why.
There's nobody else in the office?
No, my boss comes in for like a couple hours in the morning and then she'll leave.
Is your boss a relative of yours?
Yes, she's my aunt.
What kind of insurance do you sell?
Car, home, health, everything.
Are you a licensed insurance broker?
No, she is. I'm just her assistant.
But she's not there.
Yeah, but I can still do everything, like write policies and everything. Why is that funny?
Start with a little doing something not right, and you get into doing a lot of things that are not right. What happened on that date in February, Mr. Tenney?
I go over there, try to talk to her because this is when everything started coming out, and I found out that she did all these charges. As you can see, packages showing up to the house, clothes, toys for her kid. I go over there, try to talk to her, but she won't talk to me. And she started being very rude and just making comments towards me, saying things that just tipped me over the edge, but I never did assault her.
Mr. Tenney, what did you do? Did you push her?
No.
Did you put your hands on her?
No.
What did you do?
I went over there trying to talk to her.
I understand that. But then she was trying to push you over the edge. So
Yes.
is what you're telling me that you didn't put your hands on her at all?
No.
Even pulling her arm?
No.
Okay. When was the first time, Miss Nguyen, that Mr. Tenney told you that he wanted you to pay him for some of this property that you had delivered?
He never told me that he wanted me to pay him until we broke up.
My question to you is, when for the first time did he tell you that he wanted you to pay him back for this problem?
Around Valentine's Day.
February.
February. No, after Valentine's Day.
After February.
We weren't seeing each other then.
Shh. Don't speak. After February 14th. How much after February 14th?
I think after, maybe a few days after.
February 18th. And what did he say to you when he told you he wanted you to pay for some of this stuff?
He didn't ask me to pay for anything until after I tried to break up with him.
You were already breaking up with him. This happened on February 24th.
We were broken up, but we were kind of like on a break type of breaking up. He thought he still had a chance with me. That's why he
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,710. Ms. Nguyen, I am not persuaded that you suffered any injury or that you suffered from any harassment at the plaintiff's hands. I believe that he was frustrated. That doesn't give him the right to assault you, but I don't believe he did that.
No.
I don't believe, madam, that the police would allow you to leave the police station without taking photographs of injuries, without filing a police report, which they did not do, without arresting the defendant, if they believed any of your story that there was an assault that took place on the 24th of February. Were you ever arrested, sir?
No, no charges.
Thank you very
pressed.
much. Account claims dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think they were gifts.
She led me on.
Probably revenge.
Gold digger, straight up.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Joza versus Witzel. Step forward, please.
26-year-old Laura Joza is suing bar patron 22-year-old Jason Witzel for the cost to fix her car. Laura claims Jason body slammed his friend into the vehicle.
Ms. Joza, the defendant, you believe, damaged your car while he was drunk in a parking lot of a bar. Your car at that time had been driven to work by your boyfriend. Is this the boyfriend?
Right.
You were not present when this happened.
I was not.
Were you present?
Yes, I was.
Step up, please. On what date did this incident happen with her car?
This was 1 o'clock in the morning on March 4th.
What's the name of the bar where you work?
It's called Little Pedro's. It's
What do you
on,
do there?
I work the front door, and my car was basically parked about 20 feet away from me.
Her car.
We live together.
It's
our car.
It's registered
just
in my name,
registered.
but our car.
It's titled in your name,
It is.
and you are not married.
Well,
We've been living together 7 years, kind of. I don't know what that
So-
makes it
It doesn't make it.
no. Well,
by my standards, but yeah, anyway. Go
It
ahead.
doesn't make it. So it's your car.
my car.
Well, basically what happened, he came out of the club, and as he came out, I can kind of tell him and his friends were a little riled up. I guess having a good time, but a little agitated for some reason. They walked down the way, and they actually were right in the side of my car. And all of a sudden, they just escalated into them wrestling each other. And at that moment, when I seen them wrestling, I was starting to walk over there. And as soon as I started going out of the door to go over there, he grabbed his friend that he was wrestling and slammed him into my vehicle. So I ran over there. As I was grabbing him, he swung, missed me, struck his friend right in the nose, was bleeding all over the place. And then I told him, you know, they're not coming into the club, that they're done. You guys definitely are over it. But about 10, 15 minutes later, I guess I was so adrenaline rushed at the time, I didn't notice that my car was damaged. And I looked, and I could see it in the light reflecting off the side of the vehicle that it was damaged right where they fell into it. So then I looked
Well, they
around.
didn't fall into it. According to you, Mr. Witzel body slammed his
He basically
friend into
he
the
slammed
car.
his friend into the car, and his friend fell with his back onto the vehicle, and they both collided into the car with both of their force.
Got it. Okay.
And then what happened after that, he said he was going to be compliant with it. We filled out an incident report from the club that he signed, stating what happened, you know, what time, and
Can
all
I
this.
see it, please?
Sure. We also have pictures of the damage, if you'd like that.
I would.
Also have the insurance information that he gave us.
That was actually another kind of a weird thing about this case. He gave us an insurance card that he stated that it was his insurance, but it was actually just his AAA service.
He can't have insurance for this.
Yeah, I know,
They
but
don't give
that's...
insurance for this. This incident report indicates that Jason, that would be you, is
Yeah.
that right? Was so drunk he couldn't even write his name or number. So, let me hear you.
Well, I was already kind of kicked out of the bar because I had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And I was sitting outside waiting for my friends.
Yeah.
And there was probably maybe like 50 to 60 people outside.
Yeah.
And where he was, from where his car was, he couldn't have seen what happened.
How do you know what he saw, sir? You were drunk.
Because he was standing inside of the door.
I was not
It should
inside.
just don't speak.
I mean, I did walk into the place. I saw where he was when he was, you know, taking IDs
Jason.
and whatnot.
Two things. There is a signed acknowledgement of responsibility
Right,
that you signed.
right.
Now, you say that you were too drunk to know anything about what you signed. That's your defense to that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And yet you're telling me you were not drunk enough.
Well,
So, listen, let me finish. You were too drunk to know what you signed, but not so drunk as to be able to tell me that he couldn't have seen what he says he saw.
okay, but the times are completely different. I was waiting outside for like 45 minutes before he even came up to me. They didn't let me back in. I had to ask him if I could get my friends to leave. And then I probably waited outside like another 30, 45 minutes before he let me back in. And then when we were walking out to leave is when he pulled me aside and said he was looking for me because something happened to his car. At that point, I didn't know what was going on. I knew nothing about the car. I don't even think he knew about the car. I think someone told him and he saw us fighting. And it was like, oh, they were probably close to it. They might as well have done it. When there were so many people out there that were walking by, anyone could have done it.
Well, that's true, but he says you did it. And you're too drunk to know what you did.
Well, of course, I'm drunk. He sees a really drunk guy signing a thing that I'm too drunk to sign. It's easy.
Do you know, Jason, what that would suggest to me?
What?
That a good life's lesson is if you're going to drink, don't drink too much, because if you drink too much, you really can't tell what kind of dumb thing you might do, or you can't really defend yourself when somebody says that you did something that you say you didn't do. Do you follow that?
Yeah, I follow that.
So that would be a good lesson, because you don't drink well, sir.
Well, maybe it was a long night of drinking.
Was there any reason for that?
I don't know, you start off with a few and then, I don't know, you end up having more than you expected.
That sounds stupid.
At the time, I guess it didn't.
But it does sound stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds
Because now you're
stupid.
going to have to fix her car. What kind of car is it?
It's a 2005 Cadillac CTS, so it's a expensive car which is in pristine condition. It's not like I had something on it before, or, you know, it's a perfect car. I have a question, too, for him. Since he says now that, you know, he didn't do it, it could have been anybody. So since we had contact with him days afterward, and everything was fine, oh, yeah, we'll take care of it. Take it to my place over here. Those days you were sober, so that doesn't make any sense that, oh, you were too drunk at that, you know, that day. But then days afterward, you didn't say you didn't do it. This is the first that we hear that it could have been 50 or 60 people that did it.
But it could have, he told me it was his car, now all of a sudden it's her car.
That doesn't matter.
Just a second. What difference does that make to you?
Well, all right, after the whole incident, it got kind of fishy, you know? He called me like...
Listen, I don't want to hear you anymore.
Okay.
Quite frankly, when a 22-year-old gets so drunk that they don't know what they're doing, makes me nauseous. I want to gag. My gag reflex is you owe her $500. Judgment for the plaintiff.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
23-year-old Nicole Hendershot is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Kevin Gleason, for unauthorized use of her credit card and unpaid loans.
Order. All rise. This is case number 15 on the calendar in the matter of Hendershot versus Gleason. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome.
All right, Miss Hendershot, this used to be your boyfriend. And your complaint is that you made 2 loans to him. One was by giving him your credit card and allowing him to make some purchases on it. And then, since he wasn't paying you back, that you would get your money back as if he had a new job. And a new job needed new clothes. So he asked if you would loan him the money for some new clothes. You bought him $3,000 worth of clothes. And he paid you back nada. That's not the outfit she bought you, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It's not GQ.
Kind of early gangster.
Mr. Gleason says that you were very, very nice to him, and all of the things that he purchased were gifts. How old are you, Miss Hendershot?
23.
Do you work?
Yep, full time.
What kind of job do you have?
Inventory manager at a car dealership.
You've been there for how long?
A year and a couple months.
How much do you earn annually?
Probably about $32,000.
Nice. You live by yourself.
I live with family.
You pay rent.
No,
What do you mean you live with a family?
I live with my grandparents.
Oh, so you don't pay rent.
I don't pay rent.
Eventually, you're going to have to do that. You know, it's part of the growing up
course.
process, you know.
It's expensive
They
in
made
New
a
York.
movie about that. Fair, you got to launch. You got to launch one day. And what about you, Mr. Gleason? What do you do for a living, sir?
Right now, I just signed up for the National Guard, Army National.
How old are you?
21.
Signed up for the National Guard.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you signed up for the National Guard, what were you doing to support yourself?
Nothing, really.
Who do you live with?
I live with my grandmother.
What does she do for a living?
She used to housekeep.
And what does she do now?
She gets a pension, I do believe, from a past job that she had.
So she gets a small pension, and she was doing housework.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were just laying home and eating food, doing what, Mr. Gleason?
Hanging out, friends.
While your grandmother was collecting a pension and cleaning other people's homes. Is that what you're telling me? I just want to get a picture of you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, Miss Hendershot, tell me about the first loan.
When I first met him, he told me that
When did you first meet him?
mid-September,
Where?
through a friend.
You mean somebody introduced you to him as a blind date?
Yeah.
Take that friend and cross them off the list. That person is not a friend to you. That person is his friend.
So we met mid-September, started dating. He told me his ex
When you went out with him, where would you go?
movies.
Who
stuff we
paid?
eat. Me or him.
Where'd you get money from?
I get a check in the mail from my parents.
For what?
They're both deceased, so I get a Social Security check from them, each of them.
Until you're how old?
I think it's on 25, I do believe.
How much do you get?
Around like 675. It like fluctuates.
A month?
Yes.
Even if you're over 21 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And laying around your grandmother's house?
Yes.
This is some America. Okay, so sometimes you paid, sometimes he paid. You started dating and keep going.
Told me he had just quit his job.
What job did you have?
I worked at a Volkswagen dealer.
Doing what?
Off the books mechanic work, like filling up tires, making sure the cars were expected and all that.
And how much did they pay you off the books for that?
About like $20 a day.
$20 a day? Clearly on his way up the corporate ladder. Quit his job, putting air in tires for $20 a day, and... Go ahead.
He said he was in the military, so he was getting a check from that, but it was going into a bank account that he couldn't touch.
He was in the military?
That's what he told me.
Go ahead.
So he asked me if he can use my credit card for his cell phone bill. I said, okay.
Well, what was wrong with his credit card?
Well, he had bad credit because his ex-girlfriend had run up his credit cards while he was in Iraq, and now he has
When
bad
were you
credit.
in Iraq, sir?
Got me.
What?
Got me.
Okay, so you gave him your credit card to pay his cell phone bill, and what was he supposed to do? Pay you back?
Yeah, he was supposed to pay me back. I also authorized him to buy a TV for his car.
A TV for his car?
Granted that he would pay me right away.
Don't you feel like an idiot? But I guarantee you this, Mr. Gleason, if you don't feel like an idiot now, by the time you leave here, I'm hoping for better results.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not George Clooney, you know.
I've learned my lesson.
Why did you need a TV for your car?
I said I wanted one, and she offered to get it.
Well, who got it, you or she?
She got it, and she said, you have to pay it back. And then, around Christmas time, she's like, oh, it's just a present for you. You can have it for Christmas.
You know you're going to get penalized for some of your stupidity, don't you?
Oh, I know. I was naive and stupid. I know that, and I've learned my lesson.
All right. When you got the bill, how much was the bill from the credit card?
I have authorized and unauthorized charges in September and October.
You have the bill for September?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it. Okay. Now let me see October statement. This is all his stuff?
Mm-hmm.
All of his stuff?
Mm-hmm.
What are you, out of your mind? What are you, out of your mind?
I guess so.
No, you're not. You're just a spoiled brat. Paid your credit card bill, paid your Sprint bill, you went to the drugstore, you filled up your car with gas, bought yourself a pair of shoes. Tiffany and Company?
He bought me my promise ring on my credit card.
Who bought jeans?
She wanted me to get jeans to go away to Florida to meet her parents.
You actually took him to meet your parents?
Yeah.
What'd they say?
We'll see.
Is that what they said to you?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see?
They said you're smart. I know you make the right decisions, and, you know, it's your relationship. You have to live it.
Now let's get to the close, Miss Hendershot. So after he didn't pay you back this and you saw that he was abusing your trust in October, you went out and you did something really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You continued to see him. You continued to be involved with him. And in January of 2006, you do what?
I bought him suits for his new job. He was a salesman, so he needed suits. So I offered to buy him. He agreed. We went to the store, and we bought them together. And he lost the job a couple weeks later, started another job, lost that. I never saw a paycheck from the first job. He had an agreement that the paychecks would go to me for the suits.
I never agreed to taking the suits. I never even wanted the suits. She just wanted me to be some white-collar business guy. I mean, we would go to stores and she'd offer to buy them, and I was like, I don't want them. And she'll sit there and pick a fight with me, so I'll just let her do whatever she wanted.
What about this stuff, sir? These are your purchases. You had the card at that time.
The shoes are not my purchases, and only one guess is mine.
Take this over, please, Bird, to Mr. Gleason. Have him look at that and tell me what he acknowledges. You see, Mr. Gleason, listen to me very carefully, sir. It's clear to me that there was only one card, and that one card, I believe, was in your possession. Now, understanding that, you may go through that bill and tell me what's not yours, but be prepared to be grilled, Mr. Gleason. Grilled, sautéed, and poached.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a user. You're using the federal government to support yourself. You're taking advantage of your grandmother, and you took advantage of this young lady. You are, Mr. Gleason, at this point in your life, a bum.
And later today...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder.
Nicole Hendershot claims ex-boyfriend Kevin Gleason racked up over $6,000 on her credit card.
All right. The things that you circled are yours or not yours?
Not mine. The thing that I checked is the one that she wanted me to go down to Florida with, the jeans. And
She can't wear your jeans, sir. What your statement is that these are all gifts. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Wrong. Did you tell him that the TV for his car was a gift Christmas time?
No. I said I'm going to pay it off since you don't have the money right now, but when you get a job, I'd like the money, because I didn't want it on my credit card balance.
Well, you can't have it on your credit card, otherwise you'll have credit like he did when he went to Iraq and his girlfriend racked up all those charges. She didn't make that up, did she? That you told her you had a girlfriend and that...
My ex did rack up my credit card.
When you were in Iraq? Huh?
No.
So you lied about that?
Yes.
When you lied to her about that, did you lie to her convincingly?
Kind of, because she wanted an image.
No, don't tell me what she wanted. I want you to tell me like you told her, just like you told her. I was in Iraq and my girlfriend maxed out my credit cards and so I have lousy credit. I want you to tell me exactly how you told that to her.
I said when I was...
Look at me. Like, because you looked at her in the eye, right?
Kind of.
Tell me what you said to her, just like I'm looking at you.
I said to her, my ex-girlfriend racked up my credit card while I was away in Iraq.
Did you tell her how you paid off the credit cards?
Oh, I still have them going on dispute.
Why do you have them going on dispute?
Because she took my credit card without my permission. I gave it to her one time to use to help her pay off her credit card.
Yes.
And then she took my credit card without me, like, physically handing it to her.
Right.
And then I started getting bills in the mail.
How'd you feel about that?
I mean, it hurt, but...
How badly did it hurt?
50%, I guess.
50%. If you had 100% of a brain, it probably would have hurt you 100%. Since you only have 50% of a brain, it only hurt you 50%. Now, when you got the first bill, did you confront your girlfriend?
At the time, I tried to confront her, but she kept hanging up.
Did you sue her?
No.
Did you call the police?
I filed a report on it.
You did? So you were really angry?
Yes, ma'am.
Because somebody took advantage of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody took your credit card, somebody who you trusted, your girlfriend, and racked up a whole bunch of bills and ruined your young credit, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what'd you feel? You had the right to do it to somebody else?
No.
Figure if a girl can do it to a guy can do it to a girl.
Yes.
Mr. Gleason, if I were your grandmother, your bag would be packed on the front porch by the time I got home. It's time you grew up, because you're a user. You're using the federal government to support yourself when there's no reason for it. You look like an able-bodied, strong, well-nourished 21-year-old. You're taking advantage of your grandmother, who's living on a small pension and cleaning other people's houses to take care of you. And you took advantage of this young lady who cared for you, wanted only the best for you. You are, Mr. Gleason, at this point in your life, a bum. The sooner you start correcting it, the sooner you're going to be not a bum. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He used me to make himself happy.
I was hurt pretty badly about what my ex did to me, so I thought maybe if I did to somebody else, they'll learn or I'll learn. I guess I learned.
I think he got what he deserved, and hopefully I'll make the right decisions next time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mellinger versus Scott. Step forward, please.
Terry Mellinger is suing her son's former friend, 20-year-old Kenny Scott, for a loan for a motel room.
Is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
Just the one, sir, ma'am.
Doesn't he have long pants?
He does, Your Honor, but he just flew in from Tucson where he's working out in the field and he's staying in a motel, so he has limited access to clothes other than his work clothes.
Could you bring him a pair of long pants?
But I just...
I mean, he's not going to the beach.
I know, and I apologize. Okay. I just wasn't thinking.
Ms. Mellinger, this is your complaint. Mr. Scott is a friend of your son's. Are you wearing long pants?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, the two of them went off oil drilling something, got a job someplace, and they were rooming together. And according to you, you made a loan to Mr. Scott in the amount of $500 because he was short on cash. Stand up on your own 2 feet with your long pants, Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott says that you sent money, but you sent money at your son's request to your son. There was never an agreement by him to pay you back. That's your defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is your mother?
Yes, this is my mom, Charlotte.
Okay. Where did you go to work, Mr. Scott?
Well, at the time, we were stationed in Nevada, and then the following hitch, we were supposed to go down to Tucson.
And where is your home?
I live in Spokane, Washington.
How old are you?
20.
Were you paying your own way when you went to do this oil drilling?
Yes, I was.
You paid your own rent?
Not at home, no.
I'm talking about when you lived with him, when you were working. You were living together, correct, in a motel?
Correct.
Who was paying the bill?
He was.
Why?
Because I was unemployed before that, and we agreed that we would split the motel costs after I got paid, and I hadn't got paid until 2.5 weeks into the hitch.
Okay, and once you got paid, did you give him back the money?
No.
Why?
Well, because Mrs. Mellinger had came to me saying that she wired Dustin some money and that I was supposed to have been given it, so I owed her the $500, and I started to make payments, and...
Am I scaring you? Am I scaring you?
No.
That's too bad. I must try harder. Now, you went to live with Dustin and you had an agreement, and your agreement with Dustin was, quite reasonably, that you would go to this place where you could both work and make a good living, make some money, and that you would split the room. But you didn't have any money.
Right.
So what Dustin does is he calls his mother and says, Mom, Kenny doesn't have any money. So I'm going to need some money to tide us over.
We talked about this agreement before we even left town. I said, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to not have any food. I'm going to need some help.
And?
He didn't help me with food or anything. He just paid for the hotel room, gave me a place to sleep.
Who paid the rest of the money? Your mother?
My mom had wired me some money for
How
food.
much did your mother wire you? No, don't look at her. I'm asking you, how much did your mother wire you?
$200.
About $200. And I'm sure your mother has proof of that, right?
Yes.
Right?
I Western Union the money and tried to get the receipt from them, and we didn't have time to get that.
Baloney. How much was the motel room?
Well, the first one we stayed at was a little higher price.
How much was the hotel room?
It's about $25 a night.
And how many nights were you there?
The first one we were there maybe about 4 or 5, and then we switched over because that hotel was run down.
Stand up. No, I can't stand to look at your knees. Over here. $25 a night. What was the second room?
Second room was the same. $25 a night, 25.
And how many nights in total were you there?
The second room?
Both rooms.
Both rooms.
Dustin.
Okay. The first hotel was about 5 days, and the second hotel about 21 days in the second hotel, something like that.
So you worked a total of 26 days?
Yes.
$650 plus tax, right? So it probably comes to close to $800. Did you, in fact, give Dustin back $400?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, it was told to me that I owed his mother. I did not owe Dustin.
You owed somebody for half the motel room.
I realize that.
So my question is, why didn't you pay it to either Dustin or his mother?
I started to pay it to his mother.
You did?
She agreed that $100 a month would work, and I gave her $100
good.
cash.
Right.
And next thing I knew, I had a letter in the mail saying we're going to court.
Did he give you $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. He did give me $100 in cash.
Did you write 2 checks to Mrs. Mellinger
Yes, I did.
on an account that didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't encourage him. When you have a debt in this world, you're supposed to repay it. You're not supposed to take money from strangers and then make them enemies by not paying them back. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
The quickest way to lose a friend is to loan them money. I want you to remember that forever.
Oh, well.
If you're a good guy and you lend somebody money, you lend a friend money, there's only one thing that I know for certain. You're going to lose that friend and you're going to be the bad guy. That's a lesson your mother should have learned a long time ago.
Your Honor, I've told Dustin that time and time again, but I am the guilty one here.
Well, you're the guilty one.
I
Because
didn't
here's
do
a
what I
young man
normally do.
who has a mother. If he needed money, he should have called his mother.
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Leisha Buxton is suing PR firm owner Juliet Mary for falsely accusing her of an assault. Juliet claims Bisha showed up at her office and attacked her.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 16 on the calendar in the matter of Buxton versus Mary.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Buxton, from what I gather in your complaint, you were starting a business that involved making some purses and making clothes. You met the defendant and decided to retain her firm to do some PR work to get your company off the ground. You retained her for 2 or 3 months. You paid her several $1,000s, and you weren't really too happy with the results, except that at some point towards the end of that 3-month period or into the 4th month, she did get a spot for your products on the radio. Now, I don't know how that works because there's something you have to visualize, but assuming that they were going to talk about how beautiful your purses were. And you were supposed to get some of your product down to her office in order to do this PR event. You were angry because the defendant said, listen, you sent them down by Greyhound. We don't have anybody to go and get them. You should have sent them by UPS, FedEx, so that they came directly to our office or to the radio station. You got angry. You got on a plane, and you came down to her office. Okay, so tell me what happened when you came to her place of business.
We had an argument in terms of me stating I would like to get a check, a refund, for this full month of services that you're not going to be my publicist, which was from October the 8th to November the 7th.
So you went down there to get a refund. You were angry. So what happened?
I went into her office. The only thing I said was, when can you cut me a check? She actually told me she could not. I said, when can you cut me a check? She told me she couldn't. As we actually went back and forth, we both started raising our voices. She was screaming loud, telling me to shut up and sit down. I told her, when can you cut me a check? She said, I can't do anything. My attorney's not in the office. I said, well, can you give me something in writing? She said, no, I'm not giving you anything in writing. And again, arguing back and forth, when can you cut me a check? She said she would not. After I seen she wouldn't give me anything in writing, wouldn't give me a refund, I decided to ask her to give me my things. She went in and out of doors, slamming doors, picking up garments, came back, dropped my things on the ground inside a box, said, here you go. I said, that is not all. She said, yes, this is the only thing I have here in the office, and I left.
And how much had you paid her?
$2,125.
Did you have a written contract for that period?
No, we did not.
Why not? You had a contract for the previous 3 months.
I just never signed the actual contract. I have a copy of it. It's not signed.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Effective October 6th and ending 3 months thereafter.
Our actual contract runs from October the 8th, though.
Not according to this. This contract should be for an initial period of 3 months, effective October 6th, so that actually you made a payment to her of $21.25, and that was the 10th of October is when this happened. So the unsigned contract had already been in effect for 3 days. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So 3 days into the new contract. Go ahead.
Just from that day?
Just that day.
Okay, so the way that it started was my staff member called me in the morning and said that the client wanted us to go down to Greyhound, which I expressed that's not something we do. We're a professional PR firm. We rep some very large clients, and I'm not a courier service. I don't run down there. It doesn't say that I do in my contract, and I wouldn't do that. That's an out-of-pocket expense that would normally be pre-approved from a client. So I said she needs to make those arrangements to get those bags into our office. She had more than a week to make that arrangement. Previous emails stated she was FedExing and shipping them to us. They needed to be there on the 10th. My staff member expressed this to the client, who apparently became angry with her. I came into the office, called her on the telephone. She became irate on the telephone. She was yelling and swearing to the point where I had everybody in my office standing behind me saying, you know, are you okay?
Don't tell me what everybody was saying.
And I said, I'm sorry, you're going to force me to hang up. I'm going to have to hang up the phone now. You're not letting me finish. I'm going to hang up the phone. Hung up the phone. 2:30 in the afternoon, or 3:30 in the afternoon, I actually wrote her an email saying, wow, you know, that was sort of a silly conversation. I'm hoping we can get past this. Let's not miss this opportunity. Let's roll on. So at 5:30 in the afternoon, I was on the telephone with a colleague, and this person bursts into my lobby of my office, comes bursting right into my office, and she's yelling, and she's screaming, she's swearing, and she's in my personal space. And I'm a little alarmed, and I said to my colleague who was in the back room, I said, I think you need to call 911. She's screaming, she's yelling, she's following me around the office, really close to my personal space. It's getting more and more elevated. She asked for her belongings. I had to look for them because they were sent into different publicist office. Pulled all the belongings together. I said, look, you need to take your stuff and get out. She turned her baseball cap around backwards and started posturing, and I thought, oh my God, this lady's really going to hit me. I have never been in a fight. I was very nervous. I yelled for my colleague to call 911 again because it was seeming to take forever. I don't know how long the actual minute was, but it seemed to be forever. I actually picked up the phone and called 911 again with her standing right there because I was starting to feel maybe she didn't think there was somebody in the office or wasn't calling, so I called myself. They said they were on their way. I called my fiancé. I said, I need you to get over here. I'm just terrified right now. I told her, I said, look, you need to sit in the lobby and wait for the police. I'm going to go in my office. I turned to go into my office, and as I shut the door, she kicked and pushed the door, causing me to fall down over some boxes behind. I jammed my wrist and was very startled. And I think at that point she probably realized she'd maybe gone too far, and she just walked out of the office. And we ran and locked the door and waited for the police. And I was shaking, I was terrified, and for weeks afterwards, we kept the door locked. I have mostly females in my office. I kept the door locked. I was afraid of checking.
It's not funny.
It's not funny. It's funny because she's not telling the truth.
Well, let me tell you something. You were angry enough to get on a plane. All the while that you were on the plane, which was how long?
1 hour.
1 hour, you were steaming. And I would say that you probably behaved very inappropriately when you got there. That would be an understatement.
Okay.
And she had every right to pick up the phone and call the police and say, someone is in my office. She's creating havoc in my office. She's screaming and yelling. I don't want to hear anymore. I told her to get her stuff and get out. She had every right to call the police. I would have called the police.
Okay.
If you misbehaved, you'd misbehaved. You got to learn you can't misbehave. You're in business.
Right.
So let's not talk about this false report because you misbehaved. And you went to her office and you frightened her and you frightened her employees, and you didn't handle this in a professional manner. You handled it like a spoiled brat who didn't get what she wanted.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm going to see what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I went ahead and
mileage.
Just a second. Sorry. I want to see what she's talking about. I can read.
And later today,
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Police officer.
We don't like amoral bums to be on the police force, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bisha Buxton claims PR firm owner Juliet Mary falsely accused her of an assault. Juliet claims Bisha barged into her office out of control.
Now, if you hired her and if you felt as if she wasn't doing a good job for you, then you shouldn't have even considered an additional 3-month extension on the contract. You did consider...
Well, that wasn't the case, though. She actually was supposed to pick up this package. It's right here in her contract. I have it highlighted.
Listen to me. You must have been satisfied with her services for
I
those
actually
3
wasn't.
months.
That's why she dropped her rate for me.
Well, $2,000 is a lot of money for a PR firm.
It was
for a new
$3,000.
business.
She dropped her rate.
I said $2,000 is a lot of money for a PR firm for somebody who's just starting a business.
Right.
That's a lot of money. You paid it, and you paid her $3,000 a month for the 3 months immediately preceding that.
Correct.
So it's clear to me that you look like somebody who is sharp enough not to have extended this contract for an additional month, even at a reduced rate, if you weren't satisfied with her first 3 months' worth of representation.
Well, the only reason I did is because she brought about 3 opportunities as our actual contract was ending. Now, all of a sudden, she
Well,
brought
just a
these
second. How long do you think it takes? You think you walk into a PR firm and you give them $3,000 and all of a sudden your product takes off and you're #1, you know, in Fashion Weekly?
No.
It doesn't happen like that.
No.
There's a slow build-up. So after 3 months, if she gets you 3 opportunities, that sounds to me like it may be worth your while.
But she
I don't
didn't get
know
the 3.
about that. All I know is you thought enough of her service to extend your contract for another 3 months, and you did so by sending her a check for the first month, and the opportunity that she had for you was in that 4th month with the radio
The opportunity
station.
was in the 3rd month. It was in the month where I was about to end.
When was the radio spot? What date?
In September. I have the email for it. September, along with other spots.
It was October 10th.
It was in September.
No, that's impossible.
Then why would we need
Just
to...
a
I have the
second.
email.
It's impossible. Listen to me. Miss Buxton, when did you send the pocketbooks down? When did you ship them?
October 10th. She told me about
So
the
listen.
opportunity.
You shipped them October 10th.
Okay.
You're telling me you shipped them October 10th for a radio spot that was supposed to take place in September?
She gave me the opportunity in September. She sent me the opportunity.
That's not what I said.
What did you say?
I said the opportunity was in the 4th month of the contract, not when you were notified of the opportunity. I said the opportunity was in the 4th month of the contract.
Okay.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes. I do want to let you know that right here in her contract, Juliet was supposed to pay for the carrier service. She actually breached her contract by not paying for that. And that was why I resulted in ending her services on that Monday.
I'm going to see what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
I went ahead
talking
and
about mileage. That is average.
Just a second. Sorry. I want to see what she's talking about. I can read.
I went ahead and highlighted it for you.
I can read. Long distance includes carrier charges, MME.
Yeah, that's long distance.
Carrier charges.
Long distance carrier.
Long
Telephone.
distance includes
Correct.
carrier charges,
Correct.
the long distance carrier.
Correct.
Whether you should have picked this up or not, I mean, I don't know why you would send something by Greyhound anyway.
It needed
I mean,
to,
that's,
you know what? It needed to.
just a second. I don't know why you would send something if you were being responsible and if you knew you had this thing on the 10th. Why didn't you send it on the 9th or the 8th overnight by FedEx so that they would be there? FedEx, UPS.
I did overnight it.
What?
I did overnight it. I sent it that Sunday.
But you didn't send it to a place where it was going to be received.
I got it there the earliest as possible that Monday morning.
No. You sent it to another location.
That's what the local gas is for. It's in the 125.
I'm asking you why you didn't, like most people...
Because the purses weren't ready. The sewing company was doing additional...
Oh, so you... Just a second. So you weren't ready. The 4th month of the contract had already been started. She is not obligated to give you back any money. She had, in fact, booked something for you to do on the 10th. I think that you behaved very badly on the 10th when you came to her office. I think she had an absolute right to call the police because you frightened her. For some reason, you find your appearance here today amusing. I don't think that you behaved in an amusing fashion. You didn't
It's
behave...
not. It's her story that
You
she's
didn't
telling.
behave professionally. No, it's common sense. It's common sense that you were stewing, that you were fuming when you got on that plane and came down to her office for an hour. You were stewing that hour on the plane. You didn't walk into her office in a professional manner. You walked into her office loaded for bear. And because she didn't cut you a check at that point, there was a lot of yelling, a lot of bad language, a lot of slamming doors. It was not a pretty picture. And it was something that should have been handled far more professionally by you, not by her. If you're going to be in business, you have to handle things professionally.
She actually was screaming and yelling and cussing. She
didn't come to your house. She didn't come. Listen to me.
She hung up in my face, though.
She didn't hang up in your face, madam. She hung up on you because you were screaming.
She was screaming as well, though.
Miss Buxton.
Okay.
If you want to have a business and you want to be a successful business person, you got to learn to control your temper. Sometimes things go smoothly and sometimes they don't. Okay. I am certain that you were not happy with the ladies or the gentlemen who were sewing your pocketbooks that didn't have them ready on time. That be a fair statement?
Probably so, but it was on time. I have an email stated, as long as I got the bags in there by the 10th of October.
Where, into the Greyhound bus terminal?
That is correct.
You have an email that says, as long as your purses arrive at the Greyhound bus terminal by the 10th, it's sufficient time?
Not by Greyhound,
right.
but in...
That's what I'm saying to you.
Her 125 was for gas and local mileage.
How much was the plane ride to Los Angeles?
It was $200.
Money not well spent, madam. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I actually went in there and she argued. She yelled, "Shut up and sit down."
The really pathetic thing about it is had the attack not happened, I probably would have tried to work something out with her.
And then she made a false police report and a false restraining order.
But then her coming after me and battering me and having to get a restraining order and the trouble it concerned.
That was absolutely inappropriate. She hung up in my face. She should have never done it.
Yeah, I can honestly say that's the first time that I was almost in a chick fight.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Siri versus Carvello, step forward.
24-year-old Samantha Siri is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Michael Carvello, for an unpaid loan for a plane ticket. Michael says the ticket was a gift.
Mr. Carvello, how old are you, sir?
25, ma'am.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a bouncer at a bar.
And how long have you been doing that?
Approximately 8 months.
What'd you do before that?
I was working part-time, just odd jobs.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Police officer.
What are you doing in order to train yourself for that?
Just taking classes right now, going through schooling, extra schooling.
What extra schooling? Don't play with me. What extra schooling? You need a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree?
You don't need neither for...
So what classes are you taking?
Just side criminal justice type classes.
Where?
Community college.
What courses are you currently taking?
Administration of justice.
Yes.
And law classes.
How many classes are you taking?
2.
Administration of justice.
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
Introduction to law.
Okay. You met the plaintiff. According to you, she made a gift to you of a plane ticket.
Correct.
She says it was a loan. She wants her money. When did you meet her, Mr. Carvello?
I believe it was late October, early November.
And what did you need a plane ticket for?
The plane ticket was for a trip to Phoenix, Arizona.
For what?
Just to go along with a friend for a weekend trip.
Why were you going with your friend to Phoenix, Arizona, if you couldn't afford to go?
He was going to see some family, and I wanted to go along with him.
Well, why were you going, sir, if you didn't have the money to go?
Just to accompany him, have a weekend
You
away.
didn't have the money to go.
That is correct.
So what did you do?
I mentioned the situation to Samantha.
Well, what did you say when you mentioned the situation, Mr. Carvello?
I told her I had a friend of mine going to Arizona, and I'd like to go with him. The plane ticket was a little bit of money, and I didn't quite have it, and she had offered to...
No, the plane ticket was a little bit of money. We're talking about words. Plane ticket was a little bit of money.
Correct.
Did you tell her how much money?
Approximately, yes, I did give her a range.
Well, did she give you a range of money, or did she buy the ticket?
No, she gave me a range of money, Your Honor.
What range of money did she give you?
$325.
How much was the plane ticket?
I believe it was about $300.
Well, Mr. Carvello, you just told me a moment ago that you didn't quite have the money for the plane ticket. How much did you have?
I couldn't afford it.
No, that's not what you told me. You told me that you told Miss Seri that you didn't quite have it, which would suggest to a person of reasonable intelligence who wants to be a police officer that you had most of it, but you were short a little bit. So how much did you have?
Maybe $100. Some spending money, maybe.
You get where I'm going?
Vaguely.
Now, when did she give you the money, sir?
I believe it was around the middle of November.
What date?
Right around the 15th, I believe.
And you went when to Phoenix?
Towards the end of the month. I believe the 23rd, 4th.
Between the 15th and the 23rd, did you see Miss Seri?
Yes, a few times.
When did you finally decide that she wasn't for you?
It was a little bit after I returned from the trip.
So right after she gave you the money?
You could say that.
Mr. Carvello, we don't like amoral bums to be on the police force, sir. Amoral bums belong doing other odd jobs. You have a copy of the check?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Mr. Carvello, you're really very fortunate that I'm not wiping up the floor with you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, because if you're in a committed long-term relationship and somebody wants to be nice to you and make a gift to you of some money for something that is a non-essential thing, like joining a buddy to go on a weekend, I can see maybe in that kind of a relationship there's give and take. But if she gave you this money, and shortly after her giving you the money, according to her, she went into the bar where you work and you totally ignored her. Is that what happened?
We went out together, another bar where he doesn't work, but then after that was completely rude, and then I had no more contact with him.
Then it seems to me that what you do is you say, I'm going to give you back the money, even though we didn't have a time frame or whatever. But this was, in fact, a loan. He did say he was going to return it to you.
Yes, he did.
When did he say he was going to return it to you?
In about a week.
Yeah. Mr. Carvello, either you have to do something to buttress your moral fiber, sir, or you have to pick a different profession.
Sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $325. Would you do me a favor? Find him the door.
That I can do. Parties are excused. You may step out.
20-year-old Amy Jimenez is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old customer service rep Ronnie Brooks, for damages due to an assault. Amy claims Ronnie kicked her car and then broke her cell phone when she tried to call 911.
Hello. It's hard to train them. Your Honor, this is case number 457 in the matter of Jimenez versus Brooks. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
My money's on you.
Okay.
Miss Jimenez, this used to be your boyfriend. You claim he has a bad temper, and while you were in the midst of an argument, he kicked your car and then body slammed you on your car, causing damage to your car.
Yeah.
Now, you're suing him for damage to the car, but not damage necessarily to your body, which causes me some pause, because to me, if somebody took me and threw me against a car, I would sue him for hurting me, but I guess your car is important. And also, you say in another fit of rage, he broke your cell phone.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks says, well, he did in fact break the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
But he says with regard to the car, You were trying to run him down, and he merely tried to protect himself by trying to hold back 3,000 pounds with his foot. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did this incident happen with your car, Miss Jimenez?
October 7th.
Where were you?
We were at my house.
How long had you been at your house?
About 3 minutes. We'd gotten into an argument right as we pulled up.
He was in your car?
He'd gotten out of the car, and I was still in the car. And we'd gotten into an argument, and I didn't want to get out of the car. I didn't want him to go into my house, so I told him I was going to take him home.
He was coming to your house for what?
To take a shower.
Why? He doesn't have a shower?
His shower didn't have a shower curtain, and I guess he liked my shower better.
His shower didn't have a shower curtain?
Yeah.
How do you do that, sir?
Oh, we just took baths.
You just took baths in your house?
Yeah.
Why don't you buy a shower curtain?
Lazy, I guess.
How long have you lived in this house without a shower curtain?
It was like 2 months.
2 months without a shower curtain?
Yes, ma'am.
Who lives there?
Well, it was just me and my brother at the time.
Did you used to live with your mother?
Yes, ma'am.
And your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they have a shower curtain?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So he was coming to your house to take a shower because he got tired of taking baths at his house.
Yeah.
Probably got tired because if he didn't have a shower curtain and only took baths, I guarantee you that he didn't clean the bathtub.
That's not true.
That is true.
She's lying.
No. Anybody that doesn't have time to buy a shower curtain doesn't have time to rub-a-dub-dub scrubbing out the bathtub. Anyway, okay. So you picked him up to take him to your house to take a shower. You got into an argument in the car. He got out of the car. You didn't want to get out of the car. You wanted to drive him home.
Yeah. Somehow my roommate got involved into this argument, and he went up to the house to confront my roommate, and he assaulted my roommate. And then after that, he came back out, assaulted me, and then...
Well, tell me how he assaulted you.
He pushed me to the ground and kicked me in the leg.
What was the fight about?
That he used me.
Used you?
Yeah.
Used you for what?
Well, he didn't have a car, you know, he really didn't have very much money, and I was pretty much there for him.
Okay. So he threw you down on the ground and he kicked you twice. Go ahead.
He continued to follow me around, so I went and got in my car, and he continued to yell at me while I was in my car, and then he started...
What was he yelling?
I wasn't paying attention. I was just too disturbed by what he'd just done to me. And so I just sat in my car, and he kicked the hood, and then he kicked the side panel twice. And I have pictures here of the damages that he did.
That's not true, Your Honor. This didn't happen at her house. This happened at my house.
That's not true. She was telling the truth. She picked you up from your house without a shower curtain and took you to her house that did have a shower curtain to take a shower.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go into the house and take a shower?
No, I had got into a fight with her roommate.
Okay, about what?
Because he said that I was using her. So I went up to the door, and I asked him if he said something, and he said he did. So he was walking away, and I kept following him. And then I hit him.
You hit him?
Yeah.
What are you, nuts?
No, ma'am.
Where did you hit him?
Well, I didn't really hit him. I kind of put... He was...
He hit him in the head.
Shh. She's lying.
No, look, just a minute. You just said you hit him.
Well, I pushed him in the back of his head as he was walking away. You know, kind of like that.
Not true.
Yeah, it is. And after that, we went into the backyard. We argued for a minute.
Who argued?
Me and him.
Well, I certainly would argue with you. I'd probably call the police. And then you got back into the car?
And she took me home.
So what happened when you got home?
Well, we got home. We were going to go out that night. I said I didn't want to go to the club. She wanted to go, so she got mad. She was in her brother's car at the time. She thought I stole her keys. She kept coming over there after she went home from the club. My witness is right here. Okay, she was cussing, just ran into my house, didn't knock or anything, just walked in. We're in there chilling, you know. She said, "Where are my keys? Where are my keys?" I said, "I don't have your keys." She leaves and comes back, leaves and comes back. She does this like 3 times, okay? Finally, she comes back with her car. And she said, "Where's my keys? Where are my keys?" She's drunk, by the way. I said, "Dude, you're stupid. If I have your keys, how are you in your car?" Okay, so I had to...
That's right. She said, "Dude, you're stupid." Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said. So I had to physically take her out of my house to put her in the car. Okay, as I did that, she was backing up. She backed up like this, and then she went forward like she was going to hit me. And I kicked the car. I did kick the car, but she was trying to hit me.
But she wasn't in the car when she did that.
Yeah,
That was my brother's car. That was not my car.
I had put her in the car.
You would put her in the car?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brooks, how long was Miss Jimenez your girlfriend?
2.5, 3 months, maybe.
Did you like her?
Yeah.
Why would you put her in her car if she was drunk?
Because she wouldn't get out of my house.
Weren't you concerned that maybe she would hurt herself driving around drunk in the car?
Yes, ma'am, but she does that all the time anyway. She always drives around drunk. Every time we go to the club, we're both drunk and she drives.
That makes you dumb and dumber.
it's not.
If you get into the car with somebody who's driving while they're intoxicated, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why are you so stupid?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I mean, we both drive drunk. I mean, I know how to drive when I'm drunk. I don't know.
You don't have any children or anything, do you?
Well, I do have a daughter.
Oh, I was going to suggest you not do that. Now, you want to talk to me?
Okay.
Tell me your name.
My name is Derek.
Derek, you have a last name.
Villanueva.
Villanueva.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I pronounce that well?
That's fine.
But, so if I wasn't so good at pronouncing your last name, we'll just call you Derek.
That's fine.
Derek, were you a witness to this incident that happened on October the 7th?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me where you were, Derek.
I was in Ronnie's house, sitting on the couch, playing the PlayStation.
Everybody's got a PlayStation. PlayStation he has, shower curtain he doesn't have.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The entire world knows that the two of you drive drunk. So if you get behind the wheel and kill somebody, it's not an accident anymore. Do we understand each other?
And later today,
I was violated because I had a dirty pee test because I smoked weed or whatever. And I had to do 3 months, and I got out, had a baby, get out of my
Sounds
mom's
like the
house.
American dream to me.
Yeah.
Sit down.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Jimenez says her ex-boyfriend, Ronnie Brooks, owes for kicking a dent into her car and for breaking her cell phone. Ronnie says Amy was drunk on the night in question.
Go ahead.
Well, first I heard a noise to the left, and it was a foot coming through the door. That would be her foot. So Ronnie took her to the car. Well, like he said, she tried to run over him whenever she backed up and then came forward, and that's what I had seen. I also saw them yelling at each other, but I didn't see him hit her.
He didn't hit her.
No, ma'am.
Because I read her complaint, and her complaint doesn't say he hit her.
That was because his friends were around that time.
Well, I mean,
His friends weren't around him when you filled out this complaint, madam.
Ma'am, she was also drunk, so, I mean, she doesn't even remember me.
Oh, you kicked her car.
I kicked it, yeah, but she tried to run me over.
Yeah, but you kicked it on the side.
He also slammed me on the hood
Shut-
several times.
I made one dent on that car. Only kick it once. I only kicked it one time.
You kicked it once?
One time.
Very good, because these pictures were taken 2.5 months later, right?
They were. My father took those pictures because I did not have a camera at the time.
Well, that's too bad. 2.5, almost 3 months later, you don't bring pictures in of a car.
Your Honor, I filed the police report later on, like a month later. I was terrified of
A month later?
He promised me he was going to fix my car, and I was waiting for him to fix it. I went over to his house several times.
Just a second, Mr. Brooks.
Yes, ma'am.
I tend to believe the fact that you kicked her car, and I tend to believe the fact that she was drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you, because otherwise she would have filed this police report the next day if it happened the way she said it happened. She waited a month, something happened, and I don't know, we even know whether you saw each other socially during that month. Did you or did you not?
Yes, ma'am. About 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, we did.
Where did you go 2 or 3 weeks afterwards?
She always went to my house after that happened.
I have to go to his house because he doesn't have a car.
You mean after this happened, you went to his house?
His roommate lived with him, and I knew if there was other people around, he wouldn't
Just a
hurt me.
second. I don't care whether his roommate was there or not. You're making this up as you're going along, Miss Jimenez.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are, because if you're terrified of somebody, you don't go to their house. That's not what happens. You stay away from them, whether their roommate is there or not.
I was trying
Now,
to get
how
my car fixed, Your Honor.
Oh, please, give me a break, will you please? Tell me about how you broke her cell phone, sir.
Well, that was at her house whenever I had just got through getting to that confrontation with her roommate. She didn't want to take me home at first, and my clothes were in her car, so I just told her to open her car, and I would walk home. Okay, she didn't want to, so I just grabbed her cell phone and threw it across the parking lot.
And how much did you pay for your cell phone?
She didn't. She got another one free.
Did you get another one free?
Yes. That's what
My
you
friend
told me
bought
last
me another
week.
cell phone because I couldn't afford to get another cell phone.
Okay. Now, how much do you think it's going to cost to pull out the dents in this car?
For the particular part that I kicked, $400, because she had showed me the estimate. She went to my house and showed me, and I said I'd pay for that.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $480. $400 for the kick to the car and $80 for the cell phone. Stay away from each other. Stay away from him.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And, by the way, one more thing. The entire world knows that the two of you now drive drunk. So if you get behind the wheel of a car and kill somebody, it's not an accident anymore. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand me? Perfect.
He's excused. You can step out.
My roommate told me that he thought Ronnie was using me.
He didn't have a job, and she was taking him everywhere, and I told her that he was the one that was using her.
Ronnie did use me. He's scum. He's very violent.
No more. That's over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Fernandez versus Holt. Step forward.
18-year-old homemaker April Fernandez is suing her boyfriend's sister, 24-year-old nurse's assistant Sheba Holt, for the return of a security deposit. Sheba says she kept the money because April ran up a $400 phone bill.
Miss Fernandez, I assume this is your boyfriend?
Yes.
Your brother?
Yes.
According to what I read, Miss Fernandez, in your complaint, you had been living with Miss Holt.
Her mother.
And
Correct.
she lived there too?
Yes.
With a boyfriend. And there came a time when you and Miss Holt decided to rent an apartment together. You gave her a deposit, $300.
Yes.
And then you changed your mind.
Yes.
Why did you change your mind?
During the time my son was in the hospital, and she would come up and visit.
Is he the father of that child?
Yes, he is.
How old is that child?
Now he's 4 months, 5 months actually.
Go ahead.
And during the time my son was in the hospital for surgery, he was only a couple weeks old, and my boyfriend and I planned to get our own apartment. We were living at his mom's house rent-free, and we were trying to save our money to get our own apartment. She came up with the idea that let's live together and we'll split the rent. So I went along with it. She picked me up, took me to the bank, I withdrawed money, and the day later I got released from the hospital, asked her to pick me up, and she never showed up. So I changed my mind, and I asked for my money back, and she never paid me back.
That's incorrect. She lived with me because that is my home also. I pay half the bills, I pay the phone bill, I pay half the mortgage, everything. Me and my mother share the home. And so, yes, she was living with me under my roof.
That's fine. She gave you $300. You don't deny she gave you $300.
No, I don't deny that she gave me $300, but I also don't believe that I owe her $300.
Well, that's what you have to explain to me.
Well, I have a phone bill here from when she stayed at my house. I did say that she can stay rent-free until after she had her child, but I didn't say that she can run my phone bill
That's
up.
incorrect.
And
That's
so when I got
incorrect.
my phone bill and seen all these collect calls that she accepted from that young man who was in jail, I didn't feel like I needed to pay her $300 due to the fact that mortgage was due. We were all still living in that house.
Okay, I got it. Step. Miss Holt, let me tell you this. Generally speaking, you can't do what you want to do, which is write off the $300. And I understand you gave her $70 back.
Yes, I did because I
Okay,
felt
and you
bad.
acknowledge she gave you $70
Yes,
back.
yes, she did.
You can't decide that you're going to hold that for bills unless you had a contract that provided that she was to pay a phone bill.
Why would I need a...
Listen to me. Why? I don't know why. I have no idea why. She was staying at your house with a baby. He's in jail for what?
Anything?
What in me? But no.
Oh, I was in jail for a probation violation because I didn't show up to court, failure to appear. And so I had a warrant for my arrest, and I got put in jail for 2.5 months. Then I got out, and...
What had you been convicted of?
What have I been convicted of?
That was my question. You have the answer.
Well, I got convicted of what was it again? It was it was grand theft, but that was in 2000.
2000 grand theft. I want to know what you were violated on, sir. What underlying crime were you violated on?
I was violated because I had a dirty pee test because I, smoked weed or whatever.
Oh, my God.
So I got in trouble for that, and I had to do 3 months, and I got out, had a baby, and, I wanted to get myself together and get out of my mom's
Sounds like
house.
the American dream to me.
Yeah.
Sit down. I
Okay.
had enough. Miss Holt,
Your Honor.
Miss Holt,
Gross.
listen to me very carefully.
Sure.
You owe her $230. Who are you living with now?
I still live at my same house.
Perfect. With your mother?
Yes.
Now, what about
Excuse
him?
me. And he comes in and out as he pleases, bringing his little entourage to come live on me.
Do you know why that is, Miss
Why?
Holt? Because your mother permits it.
Well, anyhow, I
Listen
live
to
there,
me.
though,
No,
and I
listen.
pay half of the bills.
Am I speaking? When I speak, you don't. Take your hand off your hip. Only attitude here is mine.
That's right.
Your problem is you live with your mother. This is her baby.
No, I'm
no,
the
no, no,
baby.
no, no. No, no. He's her baby. You're grown up. You work, right?
Yes.
You help pay the bills?
Yes.
You have a responsible job?
Yes.
You've had it for how long?
Forever.
Forever?
Yes.
He will always be her baby because he's never going to grow up. He's never going to be responsible. You have to find your own place because your mother is always going to let him come back into the house. Always going to let him come back with his entourage, and it's always going to irritate you. So if you want to be free of that stress and aggravation, find your own place. Now I'm going to listen to you.
Okay, Judge, you know, I just don't understand why she is suing me when I pulled her out of a situation where her mother, she's pregnant at 18 years old, 17, and her mother's getting ready to send her to jail pregnant. You know what I'm saying?
My mother, I don't want you to interrupt her.
And, you know, all these things, and she's putting her out. And I stopped what I was doing when this fool called me from jail saying, can you rescue my broad? So I go get her, bring her to my house, you know what I'm saying? Let her live in my room, rent-free, you know, and this is what I get. This is what I get in return. I get sued for taking care of this youngster.
Miss Holt.
She's wrong. I'm wrong for taking her into my home.
Don't speak.
Letting her use me, that's what I'm wrong for.
Miss Holt.
Yes, ma'am.
You are morally correct. You cannot, however, take her $230. Do I think that she's right to sue you after living, you know,
on me for over 6 months?
Do I think so? I think she lacks a certain amount of character.
Yes.
Right? But it looks like for every pot there's a cover. You get it? You get it?
Yes, I do.
Good. I'm glad I gave you a good laugh. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $230. Listen, don't be such a good person anymore.
You're right about that.
And find your own place, because your mother's always going to take him back. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Insurance salesman Larry Lane is suing his ex-tenant, collections agent Kay Thomas, for unpaid rent, stolen property, and legal fees. Larry says Kay and her family are professional squatters.
Now, this is case number 419 on the calendar, the matter of Lane versus Thomas. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Lane, Miss Thomas was a tenant of yours.
Yes, that's correct.
And it is your claim that she owes you for rent certain property that she took from the apartment or house that she had rented when she ultimately moved out, and that she also owes you for filing false charges against you in her application for a protective order. You claim that Miss Thomas and her family are professional squatters.
Yes, I do.
Which means that they go into people's homes, they rent them, they pay rent for a while, and they stop paying, and since it takes very often 6 months to a year to get them out, they don't pay rent, and they go from place to place, and that's a scam.
It is a scam.
And you're prepared to demonstrate to me that Ms. Thomas and her family have a history of doing the same kind of thing to other landlords.
Yes, I do.
And I'd be interested to hear about that. In any event, when did you rent? Is it an apartment or a house?
It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, upper middle income with a
When?
pool. February, I rented her the home. She signed a lease on February 27th.
Of 2004?
She moved in on 2004. She moved in on March 15th, 2004.
Who moved in?
Valina Thomas, and the premises were leased to her and her daughter. In addition to her moving in, she moved her brother in.
No, just a second. Who signed the lease?
Valina Thomas and Thomas.
Is that your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
How much was the rent, Mr. Lane?
I asked for first, last, and the security
How-
deposit, $1,250, Your Honor, $1,250.
I'm going to ask the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to give me the answers. If I need for you to expand, you're going to do that
Thank you.
for me. $1,250 a month.
$1,250 a month.
And they gave you first, last, and security.
That's correct.
Okay, so they paid for March, and it was a year lease?
The check for March, Your Honor, was
No, was it a
dishonored.
year lease?
It is a year lease, yes, Your Honor.
The check for March was what, sir?
The check for March was dishonored by the bank. She alleged that a girlfriend had given her a $569 check.
Okay, so the
But
check for March was bounced.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did she ever pay March rent?
She did, Your Honor.
Okay, when did she pay March rent?
She paid March rent prior to April 15th.
And she paid April's rent?
She did pay April's rent, Your Honor.
And what about May?
She did not pay May's, June's, or July's.
Did she and her husband and the rest of the people that she moved into the house, did they live there May, June, and July?
Yes, they did, Your Honor. They lived there through August.
Through August?
Well, actually, they had abandoned the property and I lived out of state, and I repossessed the property with a writ of possession on July 29th.
I just want to know,
yes, ma'am.
when was the last time they lived in the house?
I wouldn't know. I didn't come back to the property until August the 7th.
Okay, when was the last time you lived in the house, Ms. Thomas?
July 31st.
Fine. Can I see your rent receipt from May?
Did not pay the rent from May till June.
Why? You lived there in May.
Yes, ma'am. The rent was due on the 15th of every month.
Right.
I paid April's rent from April 15th to May 15th.
Right.
We notified Mr. Lane that my husband's job was transferring him. First, we notified Mr. Brown when we paid April's rent that my husband's job was transferring him to Sarasota, Florida, which is 2 hours away from where we were living. He said, just let me know the date when you're going to be moving. Told Mr. Lane called. He said, I'll tell you what. He says, you paid half of May's rent, and I will return your security deposit if you're out before June the 15th. However, when I asked for a letter stating the fact, everything changed. He sent me a 3-day notice to vacate. Then he sent me another 3-day notice from a realtor company.
So what?
A month later.
So what? A month later, you were supposed to be out. Why weren't you out in June?
Because he didn't follow his agreement either.
Why weren't you out in June?
Because our house wasn't ready that we were moving to. And
then why didn't you pay rent?
We told him we were moving, and he said that...
Just a second, I don't understand something. Just a minute. Miss Thomas, if what you're telling me is that you moved and that's why you didn't pay rent, that's fine. What you're telling me now is that you told him you were moving, but you didn't move because your house wasn't ready and you didn't pay rent. Just a second.
Okay.
Let's get to objective facts.
Okay.
Miss Thomas.
Okay.
Who is this?
This is my daughter, Heather.
All right. Is she a witness?
Yes, she is.
Fine. Then, unfortunately, she has to stay here.
That's fine.
If you live in an apartment or a house that doesn't belong to you, pursuant to a lease, if you live there, you have to pay rent.
I agree.
I don't want to hear any baloney about why you didn't pay rent.
I never said I didn't know it. I owe him for May and June.
Oh, well, that's not what you're saying here.
I have it.
Just a second. I don't see in here that that's what you say, that you owe him for May and June. Let me see. In June, we could no longer afford the premises. That's what you wrote in your answer. That's what you swore to. Mm-hmm. And also, we found out that my husband was being transferred in the latter part of July.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that have to do with May and... Stop playing with your papers. So that has nothing to do with May and June's rent.
I agree. I mean, we owe May. We owe May and June.
Let's move on. We informed the plaintiff that we would be moving, and Mr. Lane was not very happy. He said that if we paid half of May's rent, he would refund our deposit when we moved. However, the money we had given him when we moved in was enough to cover up our rent until July, so we weren't going to pay him anymore. You got a whole bunch of excuses here, and you can't seem to keep your story straight. You lived there in May, you lived there in June, you lived there in July, and you didn't pay rent. Nowhere in your answer do you say, well, I do owe him for May and June.
I've always said I owed him, even in the court.
Would you do me a favor, please, Bird? Would you show this answer, this sworn answer that she signed to her, and ask her, maybe I missed it, you know, I don't know how I scored in reading. Show me in your answer where you say you acknowledge that you owe him for 2 months' rent.
I never acknowledged that I owed him for 2 months' rent.
Until now. Oh, fine. Fine, then we get it now. Now you owe him for 2 months' rent.
Well, I also acknowledged when we went to Brevard County Courthouse that I owed him for 2 months' rent.
Just a second. I'm not talking about any place else that you went when he tried to get you evicted. I'm talking about small claims court, which is where you are. So you forgot to put that down in your answer that you owe him for 2 months' rent. Okay. Is that right? You forgot.
Yes,
fine. You owe him for 2 months' rent.
Yes,
so your rent was $1,250 times 2 is $2,500. So that you owe him. That you acknowledge you owe him.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You gotta pay your bills, madam. If you don't pay your bills, bad things happen. They turn off your lights, they turn off your water, they turn off your electricity. That's what happens when you don't pay your bills.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Larry Lane says ex-tenant Kay Thomas owes for 3 months' rent. Larry says Kay is a squatter.
Now, when did you start eviction proceedings against her?
I attempted to start eviction proceedings in May.
So you already knew that this was a lost cause with these people?
I didn't believe it was a lost cause, Your Honor.
Well, then why would you choose to evict them?
I put a 3-day notice on her door precautionarily.
Sir, they owe you $2,500 for the 2 months' rent.
What about July, Your Honor?
Shh. Just a minute.
Okay.
Now, did you get first month's rent and last month's rent?
I did, Your Honor.
Just a second. Listen to me. The last month's rent would have been July. Is that right, Mr. Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
What about the security deposit?
Well, Your Honor, there was extensive damage to my home and legal fees.
How much were your legal fees?
$691.
Okay. And what kind of damage was done to the home?
Well, Your Honor, the screens on all windows were damaged. All the blinds were damaged.
Do you have any photographs?
Yes, I do, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see them, please.
I also have receipts for blinds.
How did these windows get broken?
Can I see those pictures? I haven't seen them.
Sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, I have pictures also.
I'd like to see them.
Before we moved in and the day we moved out. Would you like to see those?
I would.
These are the two screens that he's claiming on the kitchen. That's the 31st. You can see that those are not broke. Living room blind, kitchen. And the other one that we admitted to. These are the two that we admitted to as far as the blinds go. The dates are on them, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, so I have broken blinds.
And can I clarify something really quick? He said that me and my husband and my daughter moved into the house. I have two daughters, and he met them both. He also came 2 days before he left for Bay City, Michigan. He came to my house, my last residency, unannounced, but he came.
You mean the new place?
The old place. Prior to moving to his residency, I lived in Cocoa Beach, and he came to my residency 2 days before I signed the lease with him.
Yeah.
He's talking about me moving my brother and my sister-in-law in. He met them. He knew them. He knew they were going to be staying there with us for a month or so till they found their own place.
Mr. Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant acknowledges at this juncture that she owes you 2 months' rent. I would take that and be happy.
What about the furniture she stole?
Now let's get to the furniture.
All right.
Show me pictures of the furniture.
I can't. I can only show you receipts, Your Honor, because I'm
What
not gonna
furniture did you take, Miss Thomas? You indicate that you took some stuff from the house.
I didn't take anything. I sold it.
You sold it?
Yes, ma'am. I have receipts to that, where I sold it to and how much I sold it for.
Let me see.
The last 2 pages.
Miss Thomas, why would you sell property that didn't belong to you?
I sold the dining room set and the bedroom set.
Why would you sell property that didn't belong to you?
We had an agreement in the lease for me to purchase it.
You mean you purchased it? Did you purchase it?
No, we did not pay it in full. No, sir. No, ma'am.
Okay. So you had a provision in the lease if you wanted to purchase it, but you didn't purchase it, and yet you sold it.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you can't do that.
I understand that. I did it out of anger because of what he done. He tried to have my electricity cut off.
Your Honor, I have a subpoena from Florida Power and Light showing that I didn't turn her power off.
You tried.
But not only had she given him a false security number to get her power, she bounced checks on him, and that the power was turned off. And here it is, Your Honor,
Can I see it, please?
along with the subpoena.
Fine.
She also gave him a false address where she was moving to send the final bill. I corrected it for Florida Power and Light so they can collect from this deadbeat.
Shh. You owe money?
Yes, I'm paying them $75 a month. Yes, ma'am.
For money that you owe them?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you gotta pay your bills, madam. If you don't pay your bills, bad things happen. They turn off your lights, they turn off your water, they turn off your electricity. That's what happens when you don't pay your bills. Listen, you can't sell property that doesn't belong to you.
That.
You didn't pay your electric bill. That's why you're paying $75 to make up what you owe them.
Your Honor, her lights were turned off June 26th. Okay.
Not interested in that. How much is this stuff worth, sir? Dining room table with a hutch, a wicker bedroom set,
King-size bed,
king-size bed.
armoire.
How much did she agree to pay in the lease for the things that she sold?
She was going to pay $50 a month, but never consummated that.
No. Mr. Lane.
She was going to pay $50 a month and the balance on conclusion of the lease.
Okay,
the lease agreement shows
$50
that.
a month.
Paragraph 22,
times
page
12 is $600.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the balance upon the termination of the lease, what was the furniture sold for, Mr.
The
Lane?
furniture was sold for $1,250.
$1,250 in total.
Total.
Is
Yes,
that right?
Your Honor. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Then that's what you owe him.
I understand that. Never said I didn't know him for it.
Yes, you did. Show her the answer. She said the stuff he left in the house was a bunch of junk.
I was referring to
Just a second.
I was referring to the refrigerator.
Show me in here where
It's
you
not in that
acknowledge that you owe him money for the furniture that you sold.
It's not in there, ma'am.
Right, it's not in there.
I was referring to the refrigerator.
Mr. Lane,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like you to give me whatever proof you have that the Thomas family are squatters and scammers.
Please.
So far, I would tend to agree with you.
Your Honor, I did a background investigation, and I should have done this prior to it, but my grandson was in a hospital. This shows that she was evicted. This is a background investigation from the internet that shows 6 bad checks and cable fraud.
You got anything else?
Yes, I do. She currently is in Bradenton, Florida, in a diversion program for first-time offenders for bad checks. And I don't know about anything else, Your Honor. I just knew
Is that
that
all
this...
correct? Are you
Other
currently-
bad checks, yeah, a bad check, yes, ma'am. It was the first time offender where I wrote a bad check, yes, ma'am.
It was the first time you got caught.
No. No, it's
It was the first time you got caught.
Your Honor, this account...
I don't understand you, Miss Thomas. I don't understand why you believe. How old are you?
19.
Ma'am.
Well, you know, she's not a baby, so she can be here.
Your Honor,
Listen.
this account was written on a closed account, which she alleged somebody had given her a check.
You already gave him a bad check.
May I
for
see
Mark.
that
Closed
account?
account.
May I see that account, please? Yes, ma'am. And I took care of it. As soon as he told me that it had not been paid, I went and gave him the money. Took care of it.
Okay.
Took it out of the
Can I
account.
see it?
So
Your
it
Honor,
wasn't
she
that
told
he...
me that the check had bounced and yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lane,
Yes,
how long
ma'am.
have you been a landlord?
This was the first time I rented a piece of property, and I must have had stupid written right across my forehead.
That's true.
I understand. Your Honor, I have one other thing I'd like to say briefly.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, there was property in my garage, and when I reported my furniture missing to the police, they said it was a civil matter. They couldn't do anything. But the property that I had in my garage was a side-by-side refrigerator, a Craftsman lawnmower, and a power edger. She disposed of that equipment. I went back down to the police department. They sent me out to her house to inspect again to see if the property was moved indoors or in the backyard. And as I tried to go in, she had me arrested for battery.
He was not arrested, Your Honor. He was never charged.
She filed charges.
I have police reports.
Did you get your refrigerator back?
No. And
you
the
get
other
your-
landlord,
You didn't get it back. Did you get anything back that was in the garage?
no, I didn't get anything back.
Where's
Not
the
even the
stuff?
keys to the house.
Where's the stuff? I'm not talking about the keys. Where's the stuff?
Can I explain what led up to that?
No. I just asked you where the stuff is.
It's gone.
What do you mean it's
Mr.
gone?
Brown.
It went to the refrigerator ferry. Where did it go?
We got the junk guy got it because it was no good. The gasket on it was broke. It wasn't keeping the air in. It was leaking water. He left it. He did not want it.
Just a second. When did you get rid of it?
July the 8th.
Well, if it was bothering you, why didn't you get rid of it when you first moved in instead
We
of
were
July the 8th?
we were in the process of cleaning out the house, getting everything done. We had talked to Mr. Brown. He said it was given to you, whatever. Mr. Lane didn't want it. Do whatever you wanted to do with it.
Did you say that to her?
No, ma'am.
We
Of
even
course
cleaned
not.
it out.
Of course not. Well,
Your Honor.
what you're supposed to do is
also-
I'm speaking.
Yes,
What you're
ma'am.
supposed to do is stop making excuses.
I'm not making excuses,
Well,
Your
you
Honor.
did. You made excuses. You made excuses to
But
me.
he's saying I destroyed his house. He inspected the house on July
I'm
the 21st.
not talking about the inspection of the house. I'm talking about several things. I'm talking about the rent that you owed him.
I agree.
For $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm talking about the furniture that you agreed to buy, which you didn't buy, which you sold.
Yes, ma'am.
So you owe him $1,250. I'm talking about the merchandise that was in the garage that you disposed of the same month that you moved out. The same month that you moved out. You didn't say to me, listen, he had all this junk in the garage and I was paying for the garage, so when we moved in, I got some junk guy to come over and get rid of it. You disposed of it the same month that you were moving. Ms. Thomas, you did the wrong thing. And what you're supposed to do, put that down. When you're supposed to do when you do the wrong thing, especially if you have a child here, is you're supposed to say, I did the wrong thing.
I did. I mean, I did that.
Well, you didn't admit it to me in the answer. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. Next about
Mechanic Orlando Aristizabal is suing 24-year-old electronic technician James Morales for skipping out on a bill. James is countersuing, claiming Orlando tried to keep him from leaving, damaging his car in the process.
Yeah, this is case number 443 on the calendar in the matter of Aristizabal versus Morales. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, ma'am, please.
Mr. Aristizabal, what kind of a business do you have, sir?
Do an auto repair business, ma'am?
According to your complaint, Mr. Morales came into your shop to have his car fixed. You did a diagnostic workup on his car, told him he needed transmission to be done.
Yes.
He decided at some point that he didn't want you to do the work on his car, and he went to leave. You told him he couldn't leave until he paid you for the diagnostic work, which was $85.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, at some point, and you're going to tell me how this happened, he tried to leave. You tried to stop him. Tried to stop him by having one of your employees close a gate. He plowed through, damaged your property and a sign. You want him to pay for all that damage. Mr. Morales says that you had no right to try to restrain him.
Correct.
That you did no work on the car, that when your gate closed on his car, you caused damage to his car, and he is counterclaiming.
Correct.
What day did Mr. Morales come into your shop?
On 11/16, Mr. Morales came. I do have an exhibit.
What time did he come, sir?
4 o'clock, 4:30.
And what time does your shop close, sir?
6 o'clock, Your Honor.
Did Mr. Morales have an appointment, or did he come in
No, he walked
without
in.
an appointment?
He walked into my shop by a friend. He was recommended by a friend of his.
Had he had work done by Mr. Aristizabal himself?
No, Your Honor.
So why did he make this recommendation to you?
He said to me that this was his uncle's shop and that he'd give me a good price, an estimated price on rebuilding my transmission for that.
Is that what you needed, a rebuilt transmission?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you know that you needed a rebuilt transmission, Mr. Morales?
I had went the day before to another mechanic shop, and I have the receipt here. It shows that I paid for diagnostics, and it states there that my transmission needed to be rebuilt.
Now, when you came into Mr. Aristibal's shop, sir, did you tell him you needed to rebuild the transmission?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. Well, actually, when I first got there, he wasn't there. He showed up about 45 minutes later.
So at that point, it was between 4:45 and 5:30.
Yeah, about 5:30, when I finally got in contact with him around that time. He showed up. He asked me...
Who's Giovanni?
He was Giovanni at the time. He stated his name was Giovanni. He asked me what was the problem with the car. I stated my transmission needed to be rebuilt. He asked me, how do I know? I told him because I had another diagnostics done. So he then got in the car and test drove the vehicle.
How did he test drive the vehicle, sir?
He drove it up to the garage door, and then he also reversed it back. He opened the hood. He looked in it. The vehicle was on the whole time, and then that was basically all he did. He asked me, follow me into my office. He asked me for my information.
May I see the piece of paper that you have, sir? Is that the information that you filled out when you came in?
Yes, this is exactly information exactly as to what happened.
Okay. Is this the piece of paper that you filled out while Mr. Morales was sitting in your office?
There is 4 copies, Your Honor, just to refresh you. There's 4 copies at the beginning of the estimate. That was the final estimate, what it says, everything that I found with the vehicle, everything that said. He also asked me
You're not answering my question, sir.
That's the piece of paper that he filled up, yes, Your Honor. And he got an estimate of...
No. Mr. Morales did not sign this document that you have handed to me.
Yes, he did.
No. He did not sign this as it is written here. You filled this out after he left. So I want to see what he signed when he was there, not after you wrote everything that you wanted to write on this document about what happened later.
I gave him a copy where it says computer diagnosis, ABS not working, to check and advice. $85 on the top of it, as you can see. The final invoice,
This invoice is meaningless to me, sir. So then let's get over this, because we're not going to waste any more time. We're not going to waste any more time.
Fine, Your Honor.
Tell me what you did with the car, Mr. Aristizabal.
When he came off of the car, I did the diagnosis. I put it what is called a modis.
Tell me what you did.
I did the
want to know.
diagnostic.
Listen to me.
Would you please let me describe, Your Honor?
No, I want you to answer my question, Mr. Aristobal.
I finally invoiced it. I told him exactly what it was wrong at 5:30. He said he was going to take it somewhere else to have it repaired somewhere else. He wasn't going to do it then. I asked him he must repair. He must pay me for the diagnosis that I had done.
I didn't hear anybody doing a diagnostic, sir. Just because you wrote diagnosis doesn't mean you did anything. Now, you want to tell me exactly what you did or produce an employee who performed any work on the car.
It says right there on the invoice, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal, that's what the whole dispute is about. Mr. Morales says you didn't do any work on his car.
So he signed an invoice saying to have the car diagnosed.
This invoice, sir, is worthless. You wrote this invoice after the whole incident happened.
Did you see that I did it after, Your Honor?
Sir, you can't produce something.
I am producing. That's the honestly true, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We started arguing. He was, being loud. I got loud also.
He was a little bit high on drugs, I will imagine, because he was very,
This man was not high on drugs.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mechanic Orlando Aristizabal says customer James Morales owes for skipping out on a bill. James says Orlando didn't perform any work on his car.
Who is this person?
That is a customer that happened to be there when he damaged his car, and he's here to testify. He damaged the car with the...
So this is a witness that you brought. Did you bring a witness who did any work on Mr. Morales' car?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, did anybody else take your car away from you and put it up on a lift or a machine?
No, Your Honor.
When you told him that you weren't going to do the job, what happened?
Well, what happened was, from after he drove the vehicle, we got off the car, we went into his office. He asked me for my information. I signed the form. He said that he was going to call me the next day to let me know exactly how much it was going to cost, that it was mandatory for his company to do a diagnostics. So after all, I agreed with it. I said, fine, fine. I agreed with it. I left the premises.
What made you change your mind, sir?
Overall, the car, it is in my name. It's my car, but that's my wife's vehicle. I have a '99 Tahoe, my truck, which I drive to work and back. She uses the Infiniti to go to work and do her errands. The car that was getting fixed was coming out of her money. She said no. She decided not to. She told me, well, we're wasting our money if we're throwing our money out the window to get another diagnostics done if we just got one done yesterday. So from there...
So you went back inside to get your car.
Right. When I went back to the premises, we pulled into the vehicle. She pulled in where the gate line is, right on the premises line, where the gate would close, and she stopped. I got off the vehicle. I walked up to the garage. I seen my vehicle still in the same place, the key still in the ignition, the hood was still open, the door was open, and I looked for Mr. Giovanni, which he told me his name was at the time. I went into the office. I did not see him. I came out of the office. He came out of the back. He appeared out of the back. I then told him, we're not going to leave the car with you. After all, I'm going to go ahead and take my car. He told me, well, you can go ahead and take the car, but you have to pay me my diagnostics, my $85 for the work that was done. I told him what work. I told him there was no wires connected to my car. I see no computer next to my car. I see no mechanic next to my car. I see no tools. The car was not on a hoist. It was not moved. So therefore, I felt that there was no work rendered to my vehicle, and I told him that I was not going to pay him.
Did you see his car on a lift, sir?
No.
Did you see any wires attached to his car being diagnosed?
Well, I was only there for like 5 minutes.
The answer is no.
No.
Go ahead.
So from that point, I told him I told him that I wasn't going to pay him. We started arguing. He was being loud. I got loud also, and from there I had my wife and my daughter in my truck waiting for me. I didn't want to argue with him, so I gave him the paper back. I shook his hand and I told him, look, Mr. Giovanni, if you feel I owe you, you have all my information.
Sue me.
You call me, you sue me, you do whatever you have to do. I'm taking my car.
Does that sound familiar, Mr. Aristobal?
I saw him after he came back. He wanted to leave. I told him he must pay for the diagnosis, which had been authorized.
And he said, I'm not paying for it.
He said he's not paying for it. I can call the police. He was a little bit high on drugs, I will imagine, because he was very,
He
very
wasn't. He was.
delicate.
This man was not high on drugs. This man was not high on drugs. Listen to me, sir. Mr. Aristobal, put the pictures down, sir. How did you stop him? Because according to your complaint, you said you tried to stop him. How did you try to stop him, sir?
I don't need to stop him. I did not. So help me God, Your Honor. I did not stop him. He left, taking my gate out of it and my dumpster, here in the dumpster,
Step
and
up,
here is the
sir.
pictures of it.
Step up. You were a customer?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been a customer there?
For like 1 year.
You saw this incident happen?
Yeah, I only saw when he left.
Did one of Mr. Aristobal's employees close the gate?
No, ma'am.
Was it closed?
No, it was open. It was open like a car's distance.
And so describe to me what happened, sir.
Well, the young man got in his car and he just like bailed out fast, like he was stealing the car. He was like scared for some reason. He just left real fast and he hit the dumpster and the gate.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. From that time, when I paid it, I told him I wasn't going to pay the $85, I gave him the receipt back, because when I left, he gave me a receipt. And I told him, I'm not going to pay you. I was already backing up. He then asked me, look, at least pay me $45 for my labor fee. I then replied to him, I'm not going to pay you anything. I continued to back up. He started yelling at his. There was about maybe 10 employees there. And if I may say, Your Honor, he was also an employee here. The witness is also an employee. If you notice his hands, they are greasy.
Did you work for him? Did you part-time work for him?
I don't work for him. I paint cars. He has a mechanic shop.
What were you doing there that day, sir?
He was fixing one of my cars.
Fixing one of your personal cars or your business cars?
No, one of my cars.
Your
that
Honor,
I'm going to
if I
sell. Yeah, I try to get cars fixed so I can sell them.
Sit down. Go ahead.
From there, he yelled at his employees, don't let him leave, don't let him leave. I'm calling the police, don't let him leave. Well, my wife was still parked in the same place, if I can point out. She was parked here, right on the gate where the gate closes. And one of the employees started closing the gate on her vehicle. My daughter was in the car on the passenger side, behind the passenger back seat, and where the gate was closing onto. My wife then exits the vehicle and asks Giovanni, what's going on? What's going on? Giovanni replies, he's trying to steal my money. He needs to pay me. You guys need to pay me my money. She got in the vehicle. She backed up. She got onto the street. I then continued to back up. When they closed the gate on me, when it hit my vehicle, if you can see, if I can present some pictures to you. If you notice where the red arrow is, that's where I came to a complete stop at the dent that it made.
I want to see all the pictures, Berg. There's Mr. Aristobal's also, please.
This is the customer's car.
So what's this?
The car was scraped from the front all the way, from the back all the way to the front from the yellow fence. If you can notice the yellow paint on the fence.
If you look, Your Honor, on the tire on the driver's side, on the first tire, you would see that the trash can was actually pushed onto
the car.
On the driver's
you see
side.
the blue paint from the picture.
And both of the mirrors were knocked off.
Did you see who did that?
I couldn't really identify who did it. However, I know the male who was closing the gate was a white, tall, Caucasian male. And I told him, what's going on here? Because he's closing the gate on the side my 2-year-old is sitting on in her car seat. He says, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. Mr. Giovanni at the time, who had presented himself as Giovanni, was instructing his workers in Spanish that by no means let us out. Mr. Giovanni at that time said that he was going to call the cops. However, Cop Ernst did call the dispatching group to see if any call was dispatched from that location, and it was a negative.
Who's Giovanni?
This is, I named my shop after my son.
When somebody comes in and asks for Giovanni, your name is Orlando.
I am Giovanni's DBAS. Yes, Your Honor, that is true. I'm Orlando DBAS Giovanni's. That's how my fictitious name is.
You have estimates on your car?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. We have an estimate that was done a couple of days after the incident.
The next day.
The next day.
Which is the 17th. It's also dated.
Do either of you have a police report?
Yes, we do.
We have a copy of the preliminary police report that was filed that day.
If I may...
Do you have a copy of a police report that you filed, Mr. Aristobal?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it, please.
If I may, Your Honor.
Shh. Okay. No. What year car is this?
It's a 1993 Infiniti G20.
Well, the cost of painting it is $3,000. It's
Right.
worth more than the car.
Exactly.
Right. You paint cars, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How much do you charge for a really good paint job?
It varies from $2,500 to $500.
And what about to take out all the dents on a car?
Depends how many, what kind of dents.
Here you go. It's not often that I have an expert witness that I can question. You can stand up, sir.
It could be fixed without changing any parts.
Great. How much could you fix it for, sir?
I can fix this probably for $1,500.
You know what I find interesting, Mr. Aristobal? That Mr. and Mrs. Morales filed their police report the date of this incident, the 16th.
Right after.
You didn't bother to file yours until the next day.
When I went there, they told me I won't be able to file the same day because simply they have filled out one. And when I got there at the Foothill Police Division, they told me I must wait until next day so I can file a report. And I went back.
Are you telling me that a police officer said you couldn't give your version of the events on the same day?
Yes, because it was one taken already. Yes, Your Honor, that's
But the next day it was okay for them to take it.
Well, I went over it again.
So what you're telling me is the next day they said...
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Aristobal, you did the wrong thing, sir. There was a dispute. Whether you were right or wrong with regard to the dispute, you had an option. And your option was to let this gentleman and his wife leave.
I did.
And no, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. To let this gentleman and his wife leave, causing no problem, deciding to sue him. You had his name and address. You felt as if he owed you $85. That's what you do. You said, no, I'm calling the police. The truth of the matter is, if you had called the police at that very moment, Mr. Aristobal, you would have been the first one filing the police report. You didn't call the police at all.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not that day you didn't, sir.
So help me God.
No, you didn't, sir. Because then you would have filed the police report before them, and if I listened to your logic, when they came out speaking, then when they came in, the police would have said to them, you can't file a report today, Mr. Aristobal already did. You have to come back tomorrow and file your report. I know exactly what happened. You don't have to be a genius to figure out what happened. There is no indication whatsoever by you or any witness that any work was done on Mr. and Mrs. Morales' car. You were annoyed that they weren't leaving the car. You told your employees to close the gate because you weren't going to let him take the car. You frightened his wife by your actions, and you're going to pay for his car.
And my daughter.
And he's not going to pay for any damage that he did to your gate or your dumpster because he had no right to try to keep him inside, which you did. You have recourse. This is not the Wild West. Judgment for the defendant in the amount of $1,700. You can have your car fixed for that amount. Otherwise, you'll have to total it.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Ở những video trước thì mình đã chia sẻ với các bạn về những điều kiện yêu cầu khi người lao động muốn sang đất nước Séc làm việc. Và ở trong video hôm nay thì mình sẽ vẫn tiếp tục chia sẻ với các bạn về những yêu cầu khác mà khi người lao động của chúng ta muốn sang đất nước này làm việc thì cần phải đáp ứng. Và so với các quốc gia Tây Âu thì các nước Đông Âu thì có những yêu cầu thấp hơn dành cho người lao động nước ngoài muốn đến đất nước này làm việc. Ví dụ như người lao động khi làm việc tại Cộng hòa Séc thì cần đảm bảo tốt các yêu cầu về độ tuổi, trình độ và sức khỏe. Ngoài 3 yêu cầu này thì người lao động cũng chỉ cần chú ý thêm một số các điều kiện yêu cầu khác như: đầu tiên phải kể đến lý lịch trong sạch, đảm bảo không có tiền án tiền sự. Các bạn sẽ phải cung cấp giấy xác nhận của công an địa phương để chứng minh là mình chưa có tiền án tiền sự nào các bạn nhé. Thứ hai, đó chính là với một số đơn hàng xuất khẩu lao động tại Cộng hòa Séc thì cần có yêu cầu người lao động có kinh nghiệm làm việc trong các ngành nghề liên quan. Và thông thường thì những đơn hàng yêu cầu kinh nghiệm làm việc thì sẽ có mức lương tốt hơn. Đi kèm với đó thì sẽ có những chế độ đãi ngộ rất là tốt và phong phú hơn. Yêu cầu thứ ba, đó chính là những người muốn đến Cộng hòa Séc làm việc với thời hạn dài hơn 3 tháng thì các bạn đều cần phải xin được thẻ lao động. Và hiện nay thì thẻ lao động của Séc thường được cấp với thời hạn tối đa là 2 năm. Và hết 2 năm thì các bạn có thể đi gia hạn nếu như các bạn vẫn muốn làm việc tại Cộng hòa Séc. Và trường hợp nếu như người lao động của chúng ta không xin được thẻ lao động thì các bạn sẽ không thể ở lại Séc trong thời gian dài các bạn nhé. Một yêu cầu nữa đó chính là ngôn ngữ. Và ngôn ngữ cũng là một yêu cầu mà một số đơn hàng đi Séc có quy định rõ. Tuy nhiên thì tiếng Séc khá là khó với những người không có nguồn gốc từ Slavo. Do đó thì thay vì tiếng Séc, các bạn có thể dùng trình độ tiếng Anh. Và trình độ của tiếng Anh của các bạn thì phải đạt yêu cầu khá trở lên để chúng ta có thể tự tin đi xuất khẩu tại Cộng hòa Séc. Vậy là trong video hôm nay thì mình đã vừa liệt kê để các bạn một số các yêu cầu để chúng ta có thể đủ điều kiện để đi xuất khẩu lao động tại Cộng hòa Séc. Và cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi video này của mình và hẹn gặp lại các bạn trong những video lần sau.